G'day, ladies and gentlemen, freedom lovers, freedom fighters, sips. It's Friday. The amazing taste of the weekend coming forth to us all. All right, so we've got a big one today, all-star lineup, big brains, big brain fest. Here to discuss Jaquie's amazing. I'm going to read it straight off the thing, otherwise I probably won't say it right. Solemn League and Covenant of the People of the Commonwealth of Australia, and exactly what that means and all the rest. G'day, everyone. How are we? Hello, Valerie, Belinda, Paula, Victoria, big sips, of course. How can we say no to a second sip? Hey, before we rip into that one, though, my son has decided he's going to do a bit of a push-up challenge, and he was like, hey, Dad, do you think you could maybe help us out? And he's up to 2,073 push-ups. Personally, my eyes are watering at the idea of it. And, you know, I said to him, look, the only way I'm going to do this, son, is if you embarrass yourself and actually do some push-ups and show the world. So here he is.
It won't be perfect. Don't worry.
Best you can, as many as you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Good effort, son. Good effort. How many more to go for the day?
180.
180. You're going to be sore. A little bit lower now. I believe he's dropped that down a couple more while this has all been transpiring. He's punching in hard. If you feel like chucking in a couple of bucks, like seriously, it only has to be like $2 or whatever. It doesn't have to be much, just enough. It's just a school challenge sort of thing. And it is for mental health. It is a good cause. As you can see, he's managed to raise himself $155 so far. He's set a reasonable goal of $200. It's not that much. Obviously, the things have got buttons of 35, 65, but you can just punch in $2 if you want, $5, whatever you can afford. You know, he's generally a pretty shy chap, so getting him on to do that, I think, was a big ask. And proud to see what he's doing. And unfortunately, I don't think we'll be wrestling any further. I think he's going to kick my ass from here on in. All that adieu and done. I think we should bring in our guests. We should probably start with the creator of the Solemn Covenant. Jaquie, how are you?
Hello, Betty. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. So I thought probably a good place to start was with you explaining exactly what this is now that it's a finished product. When last we had you on, it was a formulation of an idea, but we have it all sorted now. It's all ready to rock. 2 pages long, to the extent that we had Jody on the podcast last Sunday. And he's decided to set up a parade, not a convoy, a parade from up here in the north all the way down to freezing cold Canberra, which is a rather cruel thing to do to northern Australians. I can tell you that. I'm not looking forward to the weather myself, but we'll figure out something. It might involve snow jackets or something to that effect. But anyway,
yeah, thermal underwear, etc.
Oh yeah. So if you want to give us a quick rundown, what is the Solemn League Covenant? Do we want to read it out perhaps, or do you want to just give us a brief rundown? What do you think?
It's probably a bit long to read. You've got it there, haven't you, Betty? Got it on.
Right,
Okay, I can
ready to rock.
Look, basically, these covenants have been used throughout history. And they have all based around, so as I said, you've got the Declaration of Arbroath in 1320, the National Covenant of Scotland 1638, Solemn League and Covenant Scotland 1643, Claim of Right in Scotland in 1689, Acts of Union 1707, the American Declaration of Independence in 1776, and the Ulster Solemn League and Covenant in 1912. I'm sure there are others around the world as well. My forefathers were involved in 6 of those. So, wow. Which I didn't know when I started doing this. But they are.
Did they miss any?
Say again.
Did they miss any of those? It seems like they were involved in every one that you mentioned. If it was all like 6.
Oh yeah, well, actually, the execution of Charles I. My forefather was out there fighting. He was in battle. The one that was involved with the National and Solemn League and Covenant in 1638 and 43. So he was on the battlefield in 1689. That was the execution of Charles I. Yeah, and the only other one was, so they say that the if you go into the history and look it up, it says that the American Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, the American, and a lot of constitutions were based on these documents. So they're considered foundational principles in law, and I guess they all reflect the principles of Magna Carta as well. So these have been used as a right to resist throughout history, the right to resist tyranny, and have always had people as the source of sovereignty, lawful limits on monarchy and on government, etc. And like the American Declaration of Independence, I know was based on the previous ones, but that was the right to overthrow unlawful government. So echoing the Covenanter thought. So my forefathers were Covenanters. And the Ulster was also the defence of constitutional law. So I just thought, we've got all of these. So it was my grandfather's Ulster, this one that I've got. I've got the original parchment copy that he signed, Charles Dundee signed in 1912. And it's always...
Hold that up for us again, sorry?
Oh, it's probably backwards. Hold on.
No, that's right. That's right. Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, so signed in 1912 in Belfast. But the words always, leapt out at me that, they were using all means which may be found necessary to defeat the present conspiracy. And that was of Home Rule Parliament in Ireland. So these documents have sort of gone down in history. They're all under glass in museums, and they have been considered lawful and peaceful, which is very important. That's a priority, instruments. So, and they've got their foundations in law. So with the Solemn League and Covenant, and I had Darren Dixon had a look over it, and I've sent it off to Darryl's had a run over it. Darren gave me the word commonweal and some other ideas, and Darren, I tell you what, the amount of people that have thought I've got a spelling mistake there is just astronomical.
I had to look it up myself. I'm like, I'm sure it's there for a reason. What exactly is this
so
word,
it's the prosperity, basically, and well-being of the people. That's what the commonweal is. And I sent it off to Wayne Glue and Dick Yardley, and Stephen Limbury is actually having a look over my solemn notice of accountability, which I'm going to get people to sign as well. We'll do that on the way down on the parade, the FUCCP parade. And that's basically the next step, I suppose, or one of the steps with the covenant, because with the covenant this is how we are seeking our lawful redress, lawful constitutional redress is through the courts of competent jurisdiction. So I thought I'd bugger it while we're there, because someone said to me, what are you doing there in Canberra for all these days? And like Jody's the one that organised all this, and I wasn't aware of it till a couple of days after I'd released the covenant. But I thought, well, while we're there, we may as well gather at the front of the High Court and get people to sign this notice. So I really had my nose out of joint, and Darryl was up at Dr. Beverley and Rod Culleton's High Court directions hearing on the 9th of April, and one of the grounds that Justice Beach Jones gave for remitting their matters to the federal court was that the High Court cannot be diverted or, distracted from its primary purpose. And I just lost the frickin' plot. Ask poor Darryl. I left the courtroom screaming. Anyhow, so I thought, no, you're not going to use that. I mean, there's a lot of grounds why their matters should not be in the federal court. And both Rod and Dr. Beverley, made it very clear that only the High Court can make the determination on their matters, because both of them seek the same remedy, which is to invalidate sections of state acts. And as all of the state acts and territories across the nation impose these same restrictions, the High Court is the only court that can actually determine the matter to invalidate these sections of state acts across the nation. So that's why this is. But I've just thought, all the petitions and everything else, the protests, etc., nothing has worked. And, we know that during COVID, their desks were covered with, notices of cease and desist and everything else. So that's why I sort of looked at, I just kept looking at my grandfather's thing. And I guess I started jotting down ideas in March about it, and started formulating it about 10 days prior to the 9th, so 9th of June. So that's when I really started to put all the notes and scribble that I had together and get it together with the help of those that I hold in high esteem. And, so it is basically the people. I've made it into, I looked up and, went into the etymology and the meaning of words and had people look over it just to make sure that it was all correct in law and the terminologies and what have you. So this is the thing, it's a declaration does not have the authoritative command that a decree does. And decrees are, usually only by kings or government, but it can be done by sovereigns. So as the people of the Commonwealth are sovereign beneficiaries by inherent right, I just thought, well, we, the people of the Commonwealth, have got the right to make a decree. So that's throughout this. So it becomes a command. and it's got more authority and power. And I also included in this that it is our claim of right, because that's also a strong terminology, I suppose. But yeah, so it's a Solemn League and Covenant, which is by decree, we the people of the Commonwealth declare, and we are basically, this is a reclamation of the Commonwealth, because the government, as you know, servants, agents, administrators, and trustees of the Commonwealth, they have just absolutely, they are guilty of fraud and theft and treason. Darren loves it when I say that word. They've given away the wealth of the Commonwealth to foreign interests, and that's all outlined briefly in this 2 pages, but that is mentioned. So they've failed to loyally serve the people, transferred wealth to foreign interests. They've failed to bear the constitutional oath of true allegiance at section 42. They've reconstituted themselves as a foreign corporate entity without any enumerated head of power, and so on and so on. So it lists all the breaches, and this is where we, the people of the Commonwealth of Australia, as the sole and rightful, heirs and beneficiaries by inherent right, we are telling the Commonwealth Parliament that they have breached their trust in their duty to look after the Commonwealth. And this is basically us saying that we are lawfully reclaiming our inheritance, and we are asserting our sovereign rights as the supreme, absolute, irrevocable. It does say uncontrollable, I think, in the Constitution, or in the Quick and Darren, but I thought I better not put uncontrollable in this, because I've got to keep the document as stable and lawful and peaceful as possible. So I left that one out. But, this is the thing, we're supreme, absolute, and irrevocable authority and beneficiaries of the Commonwealth. And our duty is to guard our inheritance and ensure just governance for all generations. So I mentioned the High Court in here as well, just outlining that they are duty bound. That's at the end of page 1 and the top of page 2. They're duty bound to protect the sovereignty of the people and the integrity of our constitutional framework. So then I've outlined all of that. So then we've just, at point 6, we've got, we the people are the Commonwealth. We are the power. The Crown is our head of authority. We are the lawful stewards of this land. We do not act by permission, but by inheritance. We do not recognise the corporate parliament as lawful, and basically from this day forward, just saying anything that is unconstitutional, or their acts, statutes, etc., are void. Office holders must bear true allegiance, pursuant to the Constitution. All the Commonwealth's wealth and resources belong to the Commonwealth, being we the people, and this is our claim of right. All actions taken will be peaceful, just, and founded in law. So basically, this is just a call to action. As we go over, it's they don't listen to us at all. As we know, we've had millions in the street of Canberra, down in Melbourne as well. And as I said, all the petitions and the notices and everything else. So that's why I sort of designed this, and had a lot of input from, as I said, from Darren, Wayne, Dick Yardley, another constitutional expert that remains anonymous, and a couple of others. In fact, Stephen Limbury's in the middle of going over my solemn notice to the High Court for the sentence structure, to make sure that I've got all the authority at the end of the sentences, etc. But the only way to control the executive and the legislative branches is with judicial force, and I think the only other way is for the people of the Commonwealth to stand up united, and we can do this in numbers. The will of the people must be adhered to. So I guess that's the brief outline.
Yeah, cool.
Now,
people are already asking for copies. There's no problem with me putting this onto Telegram and various other places for people.
No, that's fine. In fact, Darren's got it up on constitutionwatch.com.au. So Darren's got it up there, and I think that's been the easiest. I've really been directing people to that because I don't think the link's working properly.
Yep.
And I've asked Darren and Darryl to
I'll put a
put it
direct
up on
copy
Know Your Rights.
on my North Queensland Freedom Network
Thank
Telegram
you.
page as well for those. And of course, people are welcome to email me if that doesn't work for you. I can directly send you a copy to make life easier for you. NQ Freedom Network at protonmail.com, and I can most certainly get that through to you.
Now, I also I'll just add at the end there.
Sorry, just wanted to address this one. Can't find the GSG page. Is that which page?
Give Send Go. There? Have you got that, Batty?
Yeah, I just put them up before. Let me come back to that. The Give Send Go must be what
Dr. Beverley's, because I'm going to get my friend Nancy set those up for the Peers Sisters, so I'm going to just get it all put into Dr. Beverley's for the pair of them because it's just too hard giving it to Give Send Goes.
Okay, are people having trouble with that? Are they?
Well, no, it's just that it gets confusing for people as it is with all these things to download. So I figure if we just consolidate the pair of them into the one, because Dr. Valerie's like, oh my God, she's been through 45 plus cases. So this is the thing with the High Court. That's why I thought we need to do this notice just to outline once again throughout this. I've outlined all of their obligations and what they are duty bound to do. And I've, used a lot of old terminology. We hereby address this court directly, solemnly and respectfully. And it's just basically saying that, Rod Culleton and Dr. Beverley Peers matters are both cases of national consequence. And they, heard in the court on the 9th of April, remitted to a federal court that has got no territorial operation to provide either of them the remedy they seek, which is the invalidation in whole or in part of state acts. And, Rod's in particular, I mean, it's ridiculous they've remitted them. Rod's matter, he's got a collateral attack on Palmer versus WA, a High Court matter. The federal court can't open up a High Court matter and make a determination on a superior court's decision. Like, it's absolutely crazy. And Rod's matter is very different to Palmer's. He's challenging, he's actually challenging the Emergency Management Act, not the actions of the executive officer. He's challenging the ability of Western Australia to be able to use the rollover power, the quarantine, to continually roll it over. He's challenging the McCloy test, a proportionality test that's ultra-virus the court to even use. It's up to the legislative branch when they do their create their laws to look at if it's reasonable or fair. It's not for the High Court. They've just got to determine whether or not it is constitutional or lawful. So Darren and Darryl can fill you in on all the,
We'll bring everybody else in a moment. So Valerie, those links should have been put up again. If you're having trouble, they are on Telegram. Of course, you can email me or just ask again and we'll get them up. They should be available there for everyone now. And Butterfly Heart, we dealt with that one. So we are all good. We can get back to normal comment running, please, team. All right, let's bring that into that format. And we can say g'day to Darren, Darryl, and Heidi. How are we?
Good.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, we've had a good introduction to all that. Maybe we'll go around the wheel and have a bit of a brainstorm on what people sort of are feeling about this, what kind of an input you guys have had so far, and, what we think it might accomplish. Darren, would you like to start, mate?
Well, everything that Jaquie has said so far is correct. It's as simple as this, that prior to Federation, there were constitutional conventions which brought about the Constitution. In those conventions, there was a minister named Dr. Coburn, and he proclaimed that after federation, once we federate, parliamentary sovereignty goes overboard and sovereignty is vested with the people. And that has been proven and proclaimed many times in the High Court. I think Darryl's got some good case law there in respect of the High Court speaking about since the passing of the Australia Act and the removal of the Imperial Parliament permanently from Australia, then the real true sovereignty did finally vest in the people. So this has been proclaimed over time and time again. So it's one thing to to make a claim, and then there's another thing where you have the High Court who you are actually quoting from those particular points that that establish the Australian people as the power, and not the Parliament, nor the political parties, nor any other body, whether it be international or by treaty.
Awesome. Darryl, do you want to tell us a little bit about that case law that Darren's
Yeah.
referring?
Yeah, AB, there's a couple of very powerful cases actually, and they talk about the sovereign power laying with the people through their representatives who sit in Parliament. 1992, the ABC case, but it comes back to a numbers game with respect to what Jaquie's trying to achieve. And when you have an overwhelming support throughout whatever decree you're making from the vast majority of the general public, then of course our public servants have no choice but to follow that instruction. So it's a numbers game more than anything. And
We're talking about people power here.
It is. It's people power, and more than any other time in our past, we're confronting true tyranny of government, and at all levels. And it's the people have really no choice but to have a voice and to express that voice in a civil manner that sends a very clear signal to those of our servants to pull their heads in. And this is essentially part of what we really need to wake up to. It's not the only thing. We are also seeking people to help prosecute I believe, one of the stronger cases, which is to directly attack sections 478 and 479 of the Biosecurity Act, because that's a direct infiltration from a foreign power into our parliament and our executive. And quicker people can take on board what Jaquie's doing and also join in with other fellow Australians and request of our High Court to declare a prohibition against those two sections of the Biosecurity Act, and coupled with what Dr. Beverly Pearce is doing and what Rod Culleton's doing, then Australia can get back up on its feet. That's really where it's at. Very powerful instruments that we the people can put our weight behind and have positive results. There's, I've only been studying this stuff for about 25 years. And really the power is there. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not the light of an oncoming train. It's
That's good to hear.
it's our way. It's the people. We're coming. We're not going to stop because we are being oppressed. We have got tyranny at all levels of governance. Our public servants are turning against us. They're being instructed by foreign powers. Those foreign powers are only strong in the halls of government. If those voices were actually to get out on mainstream, they wouldn't last 5 minutes. You know, these people who are really bringing about this tyranny and control of our governance, they hide. They hide in the corner. They don't want to be seen. And we're determined to bring the light out and shine it on those people and request of our minions within our public service to wake up and stop taking these draconian instructions from those that should know better.
So, Darryl, you're mainly talking about with the Biosecurity Act is the intrusion, I suppose you could call it, of medical sovereignty in this country, where they're handing over the hearsay and the direction of pandemics to the World Health Organization, bypassing the Parliament.
That's it, with a threat of a 5-year jail term for anyone that disobeys that direction. And let's face it, it's one tyrant by the name of Bill Gates who predominantly reigns over the World Health Organization. And we've seen what chaos that brought about over the past 5 years and is still wreaking havoc throughout our health system. And it's time we stand up constructively and pull that apart and expose it for what it really is, because it's pure tyranny. And we have an opportunity here in Australia to do that. And we've got a shimmer of hope in that Rod Culleton's High Court application and Dr. Beverly Peers are the first time in Australian history where people from just off the street, not legal professionals, have managed to file in the High Court. Okay, that's huge.
Yeah.
That really is huge. We have an opportunity. Unlike the United Kingdom, where we inherited our laws, and especially our common law, who seems to have, in fact, it's broken. I think it's clearly broken. And we don't want to end up like the United Kingdom. We really need to grab hold of these opportunities we have and send a very clear instruction to those in our governance that we're not going to put up with this sort of rubbish. And we're not going to turn into another United Kingdom. And I urge people to have a look at what Tommy Robinson's doing and what he's trying to expose over in the United Kingdom. And it's rotten to the core what's happening there. And you know, my hat's off to Tommy and his efforts. We've got to look at that seriously and say, no, we're not going to put up with that. We have to take control now. It's not yesterday. We've got to do it now.
Darryl, would you agree it's quite clear where the Parliament's allegiance lies and with their actions, because all of a sudden we have this pandemic treaty which has been done over, probably around about 12 months or so, and it's been written into Australian law. When you look at, for example, the the ICCPR, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, although it is in the schedule of the Human Rights Commission Act of 1986, that allegedly does not apply to the Australian people. It applies to the Australian Human Rights Commission. And the High Court have said that the ICCPR has not been written into domestic law and it doesn't apply. It's something that we can't bind the government with. But when it suits them, their allegiance lies with this international health treaty. But for everyday Australians to have some human rights that they can rely upon on a national scale, there are certain states that have adopted the treaty. I think it's Victoria, Queensland, and the ACT, but all the other states remain silent and without human rights. It's quite interesting that the federal parliament are not acting towards this, but they act towards handing over a part of their power to a foreign interest, being the World Health Organization. They clearly have the power and the nous to basically write these things into law, but when it comes to benefiting the Australian people, they fail dismally, don't they?
I think they do. And in fact, I think what we're looking at is a Clayton's Parliament. Since Federation, in fact, part of the idea of the framers when creating the federal system was to oversee the states who before that were colonies and to keep them in line. And they've clearly failed in that application. In fact, when you look at the referendum history here in this country, they've attempted to erode away those powers and hand it back to the states. And the Australia Act, I think, was the final blow that they thought they could apply in ignoring the federal parliament. And yet the federal parliament seems to be full of people who have no interest in maintaining that Commonwealth. They'd rather hand it over to the states and just let it be. But luckily, we've got a High Court that is still determined to maintain some sort of attachment to our Constitution and to the original ideas that were brought about to create federation. And it's really up to the people to maintain that. And I believe the successful applications into our High Court challenging probably two of the most draconian actions against the Australian people through COVID. They've accepted those applications, and now we're just going through the throes of keeping it into that jurisdiction. So they're looking to the Australian people. We haven't gone completely by the way of UK, but we're getting bloody close. And we need to wake up now, Australia. We need to get this message out. This is really, we're looking at getting too close to that second hand hitting the midnight, and that's it. It's not
I can see some of the comments coming in there, it's not going to change, what are we going to do? As Darryl just said, there are cases written and ready to rock and roll. And one of the biggest ones, as Darryl has just said, pertains to the Commonwealth will be the defendant, and it is about invalidating sections 478 and 479 of the Biosecurity Act. And those sections, you'll see that is where the government have put in WHO recommendations. So this case is, Darryl, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this case pertains to also challenging the ability of the government to treaty with an organisation, as in the case R.E. Young, where Gagler states, I've got it up in front of me here now, that treaties can only be entered into, they refer to international agreements, and are basically a contract between two or more independent nations. So the case is massive, isn't it, Darryl? Because it could knock out the treaty with the UN, UNIDROIT, Lima Agreement, WHO, This case is massive. So instead of people sitting back saying, what can we do? There's no hope. Somebody put your hand up. Email Darryl. Darren at info. What is it? What's your thing? Info at Know Your Rights.
Yeah.
What's your email?
Info
Info at.
Go on, Jaquie.
No, anyone that's
Right.
interested in being a plaintiff for some of these cases and actually making a change for this country, that is a massive one. And there's another one seeking 7 plaintiffs or more. I mean, preferably it'd be good to have 2 plaintiffs from each state. And it's against AHPRA and the Australian Medical Board that have interfered with the doctor-patient relationship. Not one of us can go to our doctors now in confidence and ask them a question and believe that they're going to tell us the truth, because we've got AHPRA and the Australian Medical Board basically sitting in there with a gun to our doctors' heads saying, if you say the wrong thing, we're going to suspend you or deregister you. So we need to pull all this into line. What's the other one we got? Oh, the other ones pertain to Section 5123A against the bloody Commonwealth government funding the vaccines or the mRNA injections using the states that implemented civil conscription by forcing people to take these injections to work. Like, there's so much shit fuckery going on. It's madness. So people have got to stand up. We need to get the word out. It's going to be in masses.
The message, I think, more than anything, has to be, first and foremost, I see these comments coming up, and I see the people saying, oh, yeah, but elbow this and elbow that. Hang on. What we're highlighting here, it doesn't matter who's in the idiot brigade in that parliament. It doesn't matter.
Where the power.
These idiots bring in. We have found a path to neutralise anything that these numbnuts do in that role of parliament. So forget about the Liberal, the Labor, the Greens, doesn't matter what colour they're wearing. It's about what they're passing through that parliament that we can just take straight into the High Court and throw it under the bus. That's what this is about. It's about waking Australian people up to the facts. How does government work? And they just see government as purely that bunch of idiots that stand in the blue, the green, or the red team. It's nothing to do with that. We're highlighting the most powerful arm of government, the most powerful, regardless. You have your state Supreme Court and you have the High Court of Australia. They have the power to invalidate laws, regardless. Okay, this is what we're trying to wake you up to, and we've actually forged a new path. We've already forged the path, okay, into our High Court. So Australia, get behind us, or you're going to bloody well lose it. You're going to lose
exactly.
everything.
Those broken, pessimistic, defeatist views that are coming up. I suggest you change your attitude, because that's why we're in the shit fight that we're in, because of people going, oh, I can't do anything. I'm just one person.
Well,
the people need to get together.
Is look in our own backyard. So
exactly, Heidi.
Queensland, I can talk for Queensland, but it's the same association. I'm going to use Queensland as the example. The LGAQ. Local Government Association Queensland. I got an FYI back from council the other day. We can't ask questions about what they do. We can't get any information. They're a private organisation. Yet every council in every state and territory in this country contributes a membership. In my region, it's some $600,000. Gold Coast is like $1 million. They go off the council to some facilitated meeting. Like the new strategic plan for the city, the mayor gets on there and goes, oh, we've got this new strategic plan, which has all been pre-orchestrated from the LGAQ. They come back, say, oh, we're going to facilitate a meeting. It's $150 to come along. And we're going to tell you what you can do as a contractor to contribute and come on board. But you know what? If you want to be a contractor, you also have to join the LGAQ and pay a membership. And then if you ask to audit where that money goes, oh, sorry, we can't tell you. It's a private members association. So in Queensland just today, I was looking up the LGAQ and talks about pandemic response. It talks about, New World Order. It talks about so many things that's directly related to the UNWEF. But this is in everyone, 77 councils in Queensland, New South Wales, I don't know how many there are, everything. It's in our backyard. And you know what? In our councils, we have 7 to 13 people. That's all you're targeting. So the private prosecution is really important. This is ratepayers' money. Not only that, I found under the LGAQ, which if it's the NGAQ or the VGAQ, do you know who plays the councillors and the mayors? It's not the council. It's the LGAQ. Their remuneration package pays them. So the council is a completely private organisation that can be sued and sue. Therefore, they're not a third tier of government, and they are the ones monitoring our backyard.
Well, how about we get rid of council, Heidi, because we've got a case to do that too. Challenge the, this is the thing. They are unconstitutional. We've got a case written, Heidi. Let's just wipe them out.
I think I've got enough on the plate, Jaquie. But
no. We need plaintiffs for that case as well.
But
so one of the questions that people are asking, things like how do we get behind you and various other things, but one thing people might not quite comprehend what a plaintiff is and what is involved in being a plaintiff. Somebody can maybe break that down for the general public.
The rate money's going. They can't even Google contracts over $200,000 on their local council website. I think what they can do is actually get involved and start looking, because these things are really important. We just had a toilet block done at Stag Oval, which is a prospect of like piece of grass, $1.5 million for 2 toilets.
Yeah, we've got similar scenarios happening here in Townsville where they paid similar amounts of money for a shitty little toilet block on Magnetic Island. I haven't even got to construction of it yet. We've been hiring a temporary toilet while they fuck ass about for the last 2 to 3 years on the development of such a project. It's amazing how long it takes to build a dunny. I mean, I went down to BCF the other day, and you can buy a Portaloo really easily. It might be a lot quicker and easier for the average Joe to go and get their own Portaloo and just cut the freaking council out altogether.
We just need to knock council out. They outsource everything anyhow. They are just another money laundering thing. They're unconstitutional. They're a corporation, etc. We need to knock it out. Email Darren and Darryl. Let's get rid of council. We need people to take a matter against the council. Knock them out.
If you look at what happened in Dr. Melissa McCann's case, where she was told she was incomprehensible, potentially she went to the federal government rather than the state government in relation to the vaccine injuries. However, when you have the LGAQ, local government, private association, local council, now preparing for the next pandemic, but then they say, oh, it was state. Oh, no, it's federal. Oh, no, it's not federal, it's state. Where does the local council come into telling people what to do in a pandemic? They're not a third tier of government. So we've got a problem there.
Let's get rid of them. Let's get someone take the case. This is the thing. The answer is to take these challenges into the High Court. Email Darryl and Darren at info@knowyourrights.
Well, I did privately prosecute something recently, but because it's private prosecution.
But we need to knock them out altogether, Heidi. So otherwise you've got 27 million people or 20 million adults having to go and do private prosecution. Let's knock them out with one case. This is the thing. This is what's so hard in this country.
Yeah. And the private prosecution's how much, Mark?
Was it $117 or something?
$111.
$111.17. And there's a 17 in there, isn't there?
Yeah. But at the end of the day, Darryl's talking about the High Court. I'm going to be a bit controversial here. I have an issue with the High Court, and unfortunately I've been in front of the court nearly 130 times, be it mentioned trials or what have you, and the corruption that I've seen I was on the phone to Darryl an hour before we started tonight. What I'm facing at the moment is it's crazy, isn't it, Darryl? It's just absurd. But at the end of the magistrates court is an administrative court. In the Q transcripts portal, it actually says they're an officer of the court. Doesn't even call them Your Honour or anything like that. They're just an officer of the court. But really, at the end of the day, let's fast forward and you go from the magistrates court, petty sessions, whatever, Star Chamber. You move up district court, because before you get to the High Court, I've been told you have to exhaust all lower jurisdictions. You get to the High Court, and then you might have a full bench, 7 or 13. 4 might say, yep, I agree with that. 3 might say, no, I don't. When you get to the High Court, shouldn't it be 7-0?
Well, it's there are.
I mean, logic would say if you go through all the lower jurisdictions with all the case law, and this is where case law can be raised from 1968, as it was in my recent case, 5 decades ago.
But you can take any matter, any question of law, even from the magistrates court into the High Court under what's called Section 40 of the Judiciary Act. So the High Court has a role through that section on a specific question of law, and we believe it comes under what's called original jurisdiction, relating to whatever matter you're dealing with in that court. So the access to the High Court is guaranteed through the Judiciary Act. You just got to know how to utilise these points of law, and this is where what we're doing is sort of quite unique, because we're not trained lawyers. We're just people off the street who have bothered to sit down and read these laws as the Parliament has passed and prescribed since Federation. And this is historical. This is historical law. The jurisdiction that we put the High Court in and the Supreme Court of the state is an inheritance through what's called the royal prerogative.
But it's been fascinating along the way, because there's a lot of them that have also been thrown out. I'm not a Commonwealth. What was it, Darren? I'm not a Commonwealth officer of the court, or a lot of them have stepped to the side, and it's taken literally tenacity to keep going and make it work, and it's commendable.
We're doing, and this is the only way.
Cases, Jaquie.
You've got.
I think the main thing is we need to focus on the remedy here, waking up the masses, taking matters in to the High Court, etc. It's the only way we're going to do it, because otherwise every individual is going to have to go in and do private prosecutions. Heidi, you're a legend. I know you had 80 plus cases, but we need to knock this all out across the nation.
Private prosecution with defendant 1 to 200.
I know, it's just like people shouldn't have to go through this. So we need to go to the source of the problem. And I guess that's, how the cases are designed, etc. Going to the source of the issue, under what legislation, etc. Does it have a, traceable source of legislative authority back to an enumerated head of power, etc. If it does not, Darren was, drew to my attention. I can't remember them all, Darren, but things like the Citizenship Act of is that 1948? No head of power. The Digital ID Act, no head of power. So they're creating laws and acts that have no head of power, including doing things such as these sections in the Biosecurity Act 478, 479, where the both Commonwealth and state parliaments' legislative powers are indivisible. They cannot be writing in recommendations from anywhere else, let alone a foreign, privately owned organisation such as WHO. This is where we need to get down to the bare bones basics of things. I guess the anterior of where these things are commencing from.
But we have to wake people up to the fact that Parliament can pass any law it likes. Any law it likes.
It's meant to be subject to the Constitution, though, Darryl, and this is where the
Right.
attorneys generals are letting us down. They're not, doing their job.
That's right, but they can pass these laws, and it's up to the people to challenge it, not just wait for the next 3 years for a federal election and tick a bloody box on a bit of paper and hope that, the next guy is going to take that law out. No, that's not the case. You can challenge these laws at any time.
Yes, it's up to us.
It doesn't matter. Now we've got these new taxes that are going to come in, and these new taxes are going to just rape and pillage the middle class, right? And what are they going to do? People are just going to sit back and cop it, because they don't know how to challenge this. They look at the legal profession.
And that's what we're learning to do, Darryl, That's what we're learning to do. So individuals like Heidi don't have to go through this shit.
No.
That's right.
I'm grateful that I've gone through this because...
No, because it's a learning curve for you, but nobody else should have to go through that, Heidi. It's utterly ridiculous. And how many people have got your staunchness and, intellect to be able to go into the courts? It's not, very few.
I didn't have that when I met him. I didn't even know one section of the law.
Look, it's a wake-up call. We need to start looking and watching what's going on in our nation. It's our fault this has happened. We've sat back asleep. And, they hid the Constitution from the curriculum, etc. So we need to go back to the bare bones basics. Constitution is the supreme law of this land.
But the questions that people are asking, how do I find out about this? How do I do that? For me, I go to a lay person, an everyday person. You don't know what's happening? Go onto your council website. Have a look at the LGAQ. Have a look at
Go to Darren and Darryl at Know Your Rights. Go to constitutionwatch.com.au. I mean, these guys are loaded with information. Loaded.
People are asking for email access for all you guys. If there's a private chat here, if you want to shoot which email each of you would like
everyone's
to share
at a different level of where they're at, I guess. And I take myself back to calling Darryl the first time, and he said, you can seek costs under Section 158A of the Justices Act. And I said, oh, you're smart, Darryl. How do you remember that? I really had no idea about what it was. So to bring back to where do you start, even the Know Your Rights, as Darryl and Darren know, there's courses that you have to do to really understand it. The book's fantastic. It sets you on the way. But really, if you're concerned, it's your back pocket. It's your ratepayer money. If you're not interested where your money's going from, your rates in your back pocket, you should be, right? At the end of the day, somewhere, somehow start and say, well, I'm not happy about this. Then get the Know Your Rights book. And those people are never going to, Jackie, put their names on a document that they don't understand or something like that. I agree.
I'm doing a lot of... Read the Covenant and you will understand it. Just go over it and read it. It is all factual. And listen, this is what I give as an example. When I lived in America, I was based in West Virginia, and that was back in the late 80s, early 90s. And whilst I was there, West Virginia was the second poorest state in America, and like 98% of them were illiterate. But if any shit went down, they'd stand their ground and say, I got constitutional protection. They couldn't read a word of the Constitution, but they knew they had constitutional protection. So not everyone is going to be able to get their head around the law or anything else. Just stand strong and know. Our Constitution protects us. People can't be expected to know it, but stand strong in that. That is our power. That is our weapon.
In a summary offence in an administrative magistrate's. You know what I mean? But there is a point that there's a level. You get to a point where this becomes common knowledge. We can all talk about it like it's normal, but someone coming into this right now that only found out about the Constitution when they had to vote yes or no to the last referendum that we had prior to that, these people
Which was
didn't-
dodgy as you can't have a referendum on the same subject matter as a previously successful referendum. Oh my God, how many millions did they waste on that? Was it 40 or 400 million?
I'm not denying that, but to stay on topic, it's about I had a classic example reading something to Darryl before, and I got off the phone prior to this show, and Darryl listened patiently to a document that I've just done. And the first thing he said, "You've missed something. You've got something wrong." And rather than becoming defensive and whatever, I'm like, yeah, rightio, what is it? It was learning, right? I learned from what he said. I didn't go, oh, fuck, you didn't tell me how fucking great the other 3/4 of an hour that I just told you about was. He picked the one fucking thing I missed, didn't he? But I'm grateful for it. And that's the thing. It's about educating the people and horses for courses, come ye faithful, right? We've got to remember there's people down here that are only just waking up to it. They don't really understand the Constitution. They wouldn't have a clue who the LGAQ is. They don't even know bloody how the economy works. They just go to work. They pay their wages. They don't know. So it's slowly. And I think by doing private prosecutions on individuals, what we're learning is the individuals within the organisation that are being prosecuted all of a sudden are sitting back and saying, oh, shit, we're all liable. All of us.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, it's I think the courts have never experienced a kickback like this, and that was the only thing with COVID, that it woke a lot of people up because, people knew something wasn't right. So it did wake a lot of people up. But I guess my point is,
Darren just said all these new things, these 5-year plans, when there's doctors screaming, there's that much information out there, much information out there saying that that's not the truth, that there are injuries, there's,
oh my God, yes. Look, this is the thing. It's gone too far. The tyranny and the unconstitutional, just the entire entity of government and what they are doing. We are under tyranny. It's absolutely insane. And this is where we need, I think Eve just put up there, we need to go to the head of the snake, so to speak. So this is where, in mass, do the covenant. Yes, info at knowyourrights.com.au, High Court challenges to start. It's like taking one brick out of the wall at a time. So each case, it's one brick, and eventually that brick wall will come down. It's about making them accountable. And I guess this has been the thing for me. Like, I respect everybody that's trying to, fight this, to the best of their ability. And there are a lot of those. I mean, it's great doing, the people doing the trusts and knowing the difference between being in the private and the public, etc. But, I've just looked back at this and thought, oh my God, we shouldn't be in this situation. We need to fix this country for every single Australian. We need to reclaim the Commonwealth. It is ours. We are the sovereign beneficiaries, and we need to restore the supreme law of this land. And we need to make sure, get government in place. There's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, it's the Commonwealth custodians did the declaration. They served government, outlining all their unconstitutional, the setup, etc. That's a 40-page document. They followed it up with affidavits. I didn't know they did that, but the covenant is like, I guess, stage 2. And then the next thing is, because within the covenant we've got, about our lawful constitutional redress, and that is to be done in the High Court, basically. And then we've got amazing people like Rod Culleton, Dr. Beverly, Dr. Valerie, that are, their matters are for all Australians. Rod Culleton's is about our freedom of movement. Section 92 across our nation should be absolutely free. Dr. Beverly's matter is absolutely crucial, and we need people to please fund her. These are ongoing cases. Dr. Beverly's matter is it's a Section 109 of the Constitution, which pertains to I guess just in layman's terms, all of the state and territory health acts were inconsistent with the superior Fair Work Act, which is king over the employee-employer relationship. And it states in this federal act, the Superior Act, king of the workplace, that it is to the exclusion of any state industrial law. The definition, which you will find at section 26 of the Fair Work Act. Any state act that puts conditions or regulations, etc., into the workplace is a state industrial law. So when you look at it, this was the greatest control tactic. It's unconscionable what they did to Australians. They threatened everybody with loss of livelihood. They couldn't feed their families. They couldn't keep a roof over their head. You're going to lose your job if you don't meet the qualifications that all the state and territory acts put in. You have to be vaccinated to work. Well, no, you didn't. And if Australians knew their constitution, they could have just given everything the bird and said, no, we don't. We work under the Federal Fair Work Act, and no state act can interfere with that. So it was the biggest control mechanism ever used on the Australian people. Be part of a medical experiment, take this mRNA injection, or you've lost your job. You're not going to be able to work. I mean, it's unconscionable what they've done. Dr. Beverly's matter's got a second arm to it as well, where she is challenging. So it's not just can state acts circumvent the Constitution and federal law. And of course they can't. The second limb is can corporate policy circumvent the Constitution and federal acts? And no, they can't. Say, Darren, striking. No, they can't, pursuant to Clause 5 of the Constitution. So,
Jaquie,
this
it's really interesting to jump in there. Normally when you're challenging something after you might have won a verdict or whatever and there's no compensation, so you have to resubmit and go in and put a statement of claim and claim in. You can just put an insurance claim in to the state.
Yeah, there you go. Well, everybody should start doing that then. This is, beautiful.
$400,000. You just write an insurance claim, just like if someone bumped into the back of your car, right?
Yep.
So
Darren's nodding. I like that.
Yeah, no, I'm doing it myself. I've got 3 of them in at the moment. And
well, let's get that out there. Every single Australia put an insurance claim into the state.
Because when you sit down like I did in an ADR, alternate dispute resolution, which is what I had when I was against the state, but one of the tactics they use, non-disclosure, whatever it be standard, is do you know the cost that you racked up in fighting this at the moment, which is just a procedure, is $350,000. And if you lose, you're going to lose this, but we'll offer you this to walk away, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you go, oh, shit, they're going to, because you're David and Goliath. But if you actually just put in an insurance claim, like you would to Suncorp if you got hit by a car, this is what the government did to me, this is what happened.
But you've got to prove it. This is the problem. You've got to prove it. You see.
Claims, they have to disprove it.
Are you talking about like if you go into court and potentially lose the case and they administer costs, then putting in an insurance claim for the cost?
So you've got a criminal case and you lose the criminal case, there's generally no recourse for damages because you're against the state. So you might spend $100,000 on a defence lawyer and you're found not guilty. There's no recourse for costs, right? So then you have to file a claim statement, a claim against as what happened to me, against the state. And then you have to go through another couple of year litigation. And then they rack the costs up because, they've had to defend themselves and whatever. You just put an insurance claim in and say, it's up to you.
Now, I'll get Darryl or Darren to correct me on this, but, because I was questioning this as well, but there becomes an issue. So just when I say Dr. Beverly has a win on her matter, for example, that the state acts were inconsistent with the federal, and that those sections are invalid. There's no recourse. Darren, or Darryl, I need your input into that. There is no recourse to say, see, they did the wrong thing, because an act is valid until such time as it's invalidated. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Correct. That's how it works in this country now. So basically, sorry, Heidi?
Put an insurance claim when she wins, rather than doing a claim and statement of claim for malicious prosecution or whatever it might be. Insurance claim.
You can. In the Commonwealth, there is a scheme called the Scheme for Compensation for Detriment Caused by Defective Administration. And that's through the Department of Finance. All the documents to make such a claim are actually on my website.
Everyone rush over to constitutionwatch.com.au.
There's an act called the Public Governance, Performance and Accountability Act, and this act in Section 10 shows you that there are corporate and non-corporate Commonwealth entities. So the non-Commonwealth corporate entities are the ones that you find under the Constitution, and the corporate ones are the ones that are owned by the oligarchs that were sold off by the parliaments, or the ones that have been created out of thin air. Like, I think there's a minister for what is it? A minister for the Republic now. We have a minister for the Republic. Who would have guessed?
No, we've had him for a while. What's his name? Yeah, he's been around for a while. Commissioner.
Yeah.
Mr.
Now,
I can't. Yeah. That's because they sold us off to pay the debt.
Yeah, look, there's many documents there in respect of the.
I'm not giving advice.
No one's giving advice. We're simply talking about what is available.
Entertainment purposes.
Yeah, exactly.
All we're doing is sharing our observations of what is available to the Australian people. That's all it is.
That's all legal government stuff, as you can see here, straight from the Australian government website. We're just pointing people in the right direction.
That's all it is. So all the documents are there. I've gone and found all of the application forms, all the hard work's done. It's all there. It's all there for you to download and to take advantage of.
Just got to hit this little easy to do button here, and bang, all of a sudden brings up as a PDF. And you know what, you can either right click save pages as, or hit the little easy button up in the top right hand corner here, which bringing up stuff you can't see right now because that's just the way it works. But it's all pretty straightforward stuff. Easily walk you through it if absolutely necessary, but I'm sure you can all figure it out. It's a very easy site to navigate, as I've discovered.
Now, it's interesting you were speaking about local government before. I was just, while you girls were having a chat, I was, believe it or not, I was reading the Queensland Local Government Act.
That's not like you.
No, not like me at all.
Totally out of the ordinary.
And that led me to the City of Brisbane Act. And it's interesting because
everyone's subordinate.
Yeah, it's interesting how there is an act called the City of Brisbane Act, which constitutes the City of Brisbane, but I don't see any other acts constituting the other councils.
No, so if you go into it a little bit further, Darryl, you'll see that they're all subordinate to that one act.
Do you know what section we're talking about there, Heidi?
No, not on the top of my head. Friday night at 9 o'clock. Like, come on.
Why not? Come on. That's why we bring you on here.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no. So definitely the Brisbane City Council is the registered entity, and all under the LGAQ or local LGA, the Local Government Act. It's all subordinate to the Brisbane City Council. So Brisbane City Council is the master chef, And then everyone else is the sous chef and Debbie chefs underneath it.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, you find that in other places as well, in other states. The same thing's happening.
Yeah, it's like the Crown Proceedings Act that we're looking at that's really distinguishing between the Crown in law, the Crown in right of the state, or the Crown in right of the Commonwealth, which is fascinating in a judgment that I just had the other day. The learned magistrate, officer of the court, actually said, the Crown, I mean the QPS. So I challenged them on whether the QPS was a juristic entity known at law. And I submitted a transcript that I have here that I can read very briefly. And they didn't want to know about it. But he specifically said, the Crown, I mean the QPS. So in this transcript, which I was part of this hearing, it says, His Honour, yes, well, with the greatest respect, if the Crown, the employees of the state of Queensland, should understand who they appear for and who don't exist, and it's simply because someone puts their name on the heading does not mean they're a juristic entity. What do you? And he goes on to say, the DPP is separate to the state of Queensland. It's the chief executive. It's the state of Queensland. And then he goes on to say, Queensland Police Service isn't an entity known at all. Right?
Wow.
And they don't want to hear it. But when I'm in the court, they go, the Crown, I mean, Queensland Police, and they've changed it. And then when I got the transcript finally 20 days post-trial, it's guys that I don't know whether it's good or bad, whether it's great for an appeal because it's that bad, or the bits that have been eliminated. So when I phoned Q transcripts, I said, this is a legal document. And they said, yes, it is. And I said, but it's wrong. And they said, well, order another one. And I said, well, what if the next one's wrong? And they said, well, that'll become the next legal document. And I said, what? Because I order another one, the last one's no longer a legal document? And I said, so is this AI generated or ChatGPT or anything like that? Oh, no, it's hand typed. And as I was saying to Darryl this afternoon, imagine how many court cases every day that are happening in Queensland. How many people do they have sitting there typing stuff? So when you order a transcript, if you're not on Centrelink or anything like that, it's $84 an hour because that's what they get paid to type it up. And it's impossible that I'll show you. That is my transcript from my last case, right?
And how many hours did that take to type out?
Yeah.
84.
84 hours at $84, right?
Wow.
So potentially if the government is using AI, ChatGPT, and I have to say I love it in certain circumstances, I bloody love it, because they ask lots of questions, but it tends to agree with you all the time. But if they're actually charging people $84 an hour when they're using AI-generated transcripts, well, I can say verbatimly are not true.
Did you see recently many lawyers have been dragged over the coals for using AI to put together their submissions, and they've been putting in non-existent cases that AI has made up?
You've got to check every case in every section of the law.
Exactly. So beware, you pay someone $500 an hour, it doesn't mean you're getting $500 an hour.
But it'll come up and say Lilibet versus so-and-so said this, and you type in that case law, it's not there. You send back ChatGPT its own document. Oh, no idea. You got to be really bloody careful. And if you're a lawyer and you're believing it, you're silly. Yeah. But it's great for formatting and yeah.
It is correct.
But anyway, if we're paying that much money Q transcripts to come out with exactly what you just said, Darren, because these transcripts are not verbatim.
Yeah, it's quite unreal, and yeah, there's been a lot of people being scolded, being dragged over the coals in the courts, and there's been warnings put out now.
Yep. But they've lost the legal service commissioner who's suing me so for a brochure that says that I can write an affidavit. I'm not a lawyer. What are they going to do now? Because ChatGPT has actually come into force. That wasn't around when they actually started the prosecution against me. So I don't know what they're going to do now.
It's interesting because if you go to Google and you look up the word or the meaning of the word lawyer, it says that it's one who studies or practices the law. So you either study or practice. And then it says especially a barrister or solicitor. It says especially, but not exclusively. So one who studies the law is a lawyer by definition.
But ChatGPT actually says, as a lawyer, what I'm going to tell you is this.
Really?
Yeah.
We should get the Legal Services Commission onto AI.
Oh, Google's AI comes up and says a lawyer is a professional qualified to offer legal advice and represent individuals in legal matters. In Australia, the term lawyer generally encompasses both solicitors and barristers, though their roles differ. Solicitors primarily provide legal advice and handle legal tasks, where barristers specialize in courtroom representation. Obviously, a lot more.
Yeah, they've changed it.
Legal rights, responsibilities, but yeah, that's the AI version. Whereas here it's just going to various different things. Legal aid. Lawyer definition.
Someone just put what happened to the court reporters and why I'm not in the newspaper anymore. It could have something to do with a private prosecution or something.
Here's your definition. A person who practices or studies law, especially in the UK. A solicitor or a barrister, or in the US as an attorney. Apparently, Australia doesn't count.
Did I tell you, or did I tell you?
Yeah, it was pretty close, except you weren't, prejudiced towards, the UK.
Oh, look. I don't think someone's location should be held against them. That's why we were.
But Google says otherwise.
Well,
I just want to say one more thing, and then I'm going to sit back and listen. But Darryl knows this already. I had a recent decision in a trial of mine, and the magistrate actually said verbatim, the police violence was lawful and the assault by police was lawful.
Oh, really?
Verbatim transcript. I know for a fact it was said in court. He actually said police violence is lawful and an assault by police is lawful.
No, it's
as
not.
a broad terminology, or as only
nothing in the
specific
legislation that allows they can use reasonable force, they can use balanced force or whatever that word is, but the only thing that describes, and I hope they're listening, assault and violence comes under the sections of assault and violence and nowhere else in the legislation. So the fact a magistrate who made his decision after a 5-day trial that was adjourned for 6 weeks between because of lack of disclosure and sanctioned the police on my behalf, then made his decision in under 2 hours after a 5-day trial, but said violence was lawful and an assault was lawful. I'm really looking forward to my appeal.
That's interesting. You know what? I wonder what they'll say when you provide all the case law that shows police officers assaulting people and them being convicted of it. I wonder what will happen then.
Yeah.
The learned magistrate will probably get learned.
Darryl's just had to listen to the whole lot. I got him through peak hour traffic. He wasn't bored.
Oh. Hey, Heidi, while we're here, we should say hello to the commission because they're probably watching, aren't they?
Commissioner or commissioner or
Yeah.
Megan Mahoney,
Hello.
because I got three separate. So it's the commissioner, but Megan Mahoney is, I've asked for her to be subpoenaed as a witness, but she's not mentioned because the commissioner's mentioned. So her legal personal capacity must be Megan Mahoney, but the commissioner is obviously her perpetual corporate name. And then I think there's about 7 different council that's acted on this, and they're all they sign off as the commission. So that's not until the 9th of September, the appeal that I've got going on for that. So it's a while away.
I wonder what the future of the legal profession is now. Not very rosy, I don't.
With ChatGPT.
Well, if they can do it, any one of us can do it, eh?
That's right.
The magistrate
What do we need
used,
these people for? It's a lot cheaper to get a subscription to ChatGPT.
he used a score on me the other day, public court, from 1968. And I know we all use old stuff. We're using this with the Constitution. 5 years ago, of a mob group of Maori people that attacked a police officer when these police entered my home, and he said they assaulted me and used violence. It's a long story what the case is, going for 2 years and 6 months. And the tactics he used, it's just insane. If you had ChatGPT right there and then, which I didn't because I'm still old school, I should have gone, hang on a minute, mate. Because literally it comes up in seconds. And you know what? I doubt that even, especially at the administrative level, would actually know whether you were telling the truth or not. You could say Muhammad versus Ali, square brackets 2016 QSA, and what would he say?
Yeah.
You've got to have a joke about it.
It's pathetic.
Anyway, that's me. I'm going to sit back and listen now.
So to bring it back to our original conversation point being Jackie's paperwork there regarding the I'm going to say it right, Solemn League and Covenant of the People of the Commonwealth of Australia. Is that, and I know early in the piece there, Darryl, you said that, you know, obviously UK is up shit creek without a shovel to use as a paddle, but the US, obviously other Commonwealth countries are in similar situations as the same bullshit is rolling out. And this is a broad question, but just isolating those specific comments. Is it possible to adapt and use this same principle for those poor members of the human race that are also suffering under the same circumstances?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe what I was talking to a group in Canada the other day, and they were looking for a path with relation to their specific issues. And I raised the point that the court system have within it, within the prerogative, a matter of challenging any legislation. And they were like, wow, sort of really taken aback. And they're going, well, that's really, you've given us a whole new sort of avenue to walk down. And, you know, it really comes back to, like I said earlier, people just ignoring the parliamentary system, because we've clearly, they've just lost the plot. And we need to focus on our voice and how we express that voice and working our court system. And essentially what is, you know, when you look at our Constitution and Chapter 3 specifically, it's got the word judicature. And what does judicature actually mean? It means a people-based court system. And that voice has been missing for way too long. And that voice is now starting to come back. And we need what we're doing, I believe, we're at the very tip of this freedom movement because we're actually doing stuff. We're not just talking about it, we're doing it. And we're looking to the rest of our neighbours in this country and say, hey, come on board. You know, it's not going to hurt. We're here to, it's for everyone's benefit at this very point in our lives where, you know, it looks like the whole world's going to a bloody big shit show. It's time to stand up and be counted. Our kids are looking to what we're doing. Are we going to just lay down? Are we going to sit back and watch Days of Our Lives? Are we going to sit back and play games, or are we going to do something? Are we going to let this country go to the oligarchs and those bringing about this tyranny? Because they're doing it slyly. They're doing it underhandedly. And as Heidi has exposed, they're admitting it on court transcript, their misbehaviour. Do we just let these things go? No, we stand up and we use the process that's been given to us through the court system, through the judicature, and we push back. And
the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy themselves.
The enemy itself. Absolutely. And this is what we're doing, where every time a door closes in our face, another one opens.
That's right.
It's just amazing. And this is for a reason. It's designed to put back tyranny. We have to learn from our forefathers. And that's what Jaquie's expressed through this document. Her history has dictated to her, no, Jaquie, you're not going to sleep tonight. I'm going to make sure you get through your head and put onto paper your history and her forefathers and what they were doing for their neighbours. So we're about upholding our forefathers and what they were doing and trying to get our neighbours fired up. The warning bells are there. You know,
my father was put on a cattle cart from Poland in West Germany after his father having to have the TB injection to give him the papers to get on the cattle cart. And luckily they got off it, long story short. But yes, it's all in our DNA.
It's there. We're here to express that. We've got the culmination of our history here. We've got the knowledge in front of us. We've got this amazing thing called the internet. We can condense, volumes of law through a search engine to find the specifics that we need in order to put up a resistance, a passive resistance. And we can do it and call these people out. Otherwise, what's the whole point of this system? And we end up getting the respect of those minions because they realise as well that if we fail, the whole lot just goes to hell in a handbasket. So we either do it and we do it right. And yeah, we're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect. But by crikey, we learn bloody quick and we go straight back and remind them where they made their mistakes. We're not there to judge them as such. Their judgment's going to come because, actually, Heidi hasn't released your book yet, have you? What's it called? You can't take the egg back out of the cake.
Hang on. Hang on.
Can't take the egg. This is about the narcissists that are running us.
Yeah.
Can't take the egg out of the cake once baked.
Yeah. And
Let's
this
see if
is
I
the
can-
narcissism that we're confronting in government. They're full of narcissists.
That's got
Thank
one
you.
last read I publish. Yeah.
So, we're waking up and we want to do this constructively, and we want everyone to come on board and peacefully say we've had
Yes.
a gutful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We've had a gutful, and we've put up with your shit for too long, and now we're putting up a resistance, and we're not only going to return it back to the way it should be, we're going to bloody well make sure this doesn't happen again.
Narcissism, if I can explain it to those that don't know in a really quick sentence, you're at a basketball game and the ball goes in the hoop. It's a slam dunk. It's in the hoop. Everyone's like, woo! Point to that team. And the referee goes, what ball? Didn't see the ball? No, that didn't happen. Didn't even see the ball. And everyone goes, yeah, we videoed it. Yeah, no, sorry, that's not admissible. Sorry, no. And that's as simple as it is, and that's what's happening. And that's like my transcripts are just so laden with that. And had I not had a history of to be able to write the book and the education to write that book, it would be so incredibly daunting to stand back up and say to these people, no, you're wrong. I'm coming for you. The magistrate right now is in a world of trouble.
That's right.
It's funny you use the sport analogy in that manner, though, because that seems to formulate a great many debates amongst the general populace whether that referee decision was correct every bloody week. And it's amazing how much dedication the general public can have to that referee decision about a footy game or a basketball game or whatever. And they get all so wound up about that. But when they're getting robbed blind by their government, they don't seem to have the same tenacity or desire for discussion.
But that's what I was going to say earlier when Jaquie mentioned something. You could have the most dysfunctional family that are literally abusive. They hate each other. There's all of that. But when the footy game's on, they're all on the couch. Right? They might be in opposite teams, but they're all on the couch. And it brings the family together for that one indoctrinated reason, if that's the word, or perpetual reason that happens. We need to get everyone on our couch to watch a different television channel, I think.
Well, I am the anomaly.
Good analogy.
There's actually members of my family I haven't spoken to since I was about 8 years old because of arguments over a footy game between our parents. So,
Got an idea, Darren. Why don't you go on Farmer Wants a Wife?
What's that?
That way.
What?
My point is for publicity, Darren. Smile. You know what I mean? Canberra needs a politician. We could start a new reality show.
interesting idea.
Sorry, Darren. You said
So many things you could do with Canberra needs and insert after that. So many things it needs.
Yeah. Farmer Wants a Wife, Covenant Edition.
Darryl got it.
Yeah, I'm a bit slow.
We got some questions here that have been waiting for some time. I thought we might bring him in. Martin's always good with some questions. Darren and Darryl, is there a remedy for our constitution, or will we have to resort to unheard of measures never seen before on this land to get our lawless nation back under control?
Well, that's what we're doing. We're using the Constitution quite specifically to bring it back, and that's Chapter 3, and Section 51, and we're utilising it. We've taken what the framers have given us and gone, yeah, okay, that's got some merit. Let's give it a go, and it can work for you. Absolutely, it can.
Yeah, exactly. Most politicians are unaware that we have a constitution. They only found out when we had the referendum last year. And I think their memories were refreshed back in 1999 when we had a referendum for a republic to change the constitution, remove the Queen and the Governor General, and replace them with a president that were voted in by the Parliament themselves, by the executive, creating a dictatorship. And I think their minds were they're quite happy about that bit. But yeah, fundamentally, in Parliament, the Constitution is just an old book up on the shelf that's gathering dust, and it's not until you actually pull it out and pull apart the different chapters in the book and assert to government that they must be acting under those particular rules that have been set by the framers for the Parliament, for the executive, for the legislator, for the judiciary, for the Governor General, for the people of the Commonwealth. Everyone has their role in the Constitution, and everybody has to wake up and fulfill their role within that Constitution, or we simply do not have this monarchy that we live in.
Darren, I was waiting for the magistrate to come in and adjourn in a trial the other day, and the clerk has worked there since she left high school, so potentially 20 years. And I said, well, what do you reckon about that? We're one of the last courts to still have the emblem of the lion and unicorn on the back wall. She goes, the what? I said, there's a lion and a unicorn on the back wall. And she goes, I've never noticed it. I said, it's the only thing on the wall. There is nothing else. And it sits directly above the magistrate's head, and you sit directly next to it. And she said, she got up, she walked around, and she went, oh, you're right. And I said, come on.
See, for me, that is the catalyst for a jurisdictional challenge.
She's the queen.
You sit under the coat of arms of the United Kingdom, and clearly that's when a court sits under a coat of arms, that's the power and authority that it exercises. And if you go to the Supreme Court Act of each state, you will find that that is still the power and authority that they are exercising. If you go to states like Western Australia, South Australia, and Tasmania, you will find it actually in the books, in the current legislation in the eastern states. You have to dive deep a little bit. Like, for example, I think Victoria's one says that the Supreme Court of Victoria exercises the same power and authority it did prior to the enactment of this Act, which is the 1986 Supreme Court Act, which was enacted after the Australia Act. So although the Australia Act removed the power and authority, allegedly the power and authority of the United Kingdom, it appears that it did not in respect of the judiciary. If you go to Section 16 of the Western Australian Supreme Court Act, you'll see it says that they are exercising the powers and authorities of the courts of Westminster, I think at 1864. So, and it says it can exercise those jurisdictions and any other jurisdiction found in any other act. But if you go and have a look in the Western Australian legislation, there are no other jurisdictions. So
interesting. The magistrate said to me that they swap jurisdictions all the time. They're anything from a Q card to domestic violence, civil or otherwise. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, very interesting. But yeah, that power and authority, that coat of arms, if I walk into any court and they've got that there, that's bang straight on jurisdictional challenge. Because otherwise, how can they constitute the court under that coat of arms?
There's nothing else on the wall. That's what I said. There's nothing else. And you've never seen.
I'm not sure about. I know the Supreme. I think the Supreme Court of Queensland. You have like a deer and something else, some other animal. I'm not sure.
Here in a Brolga, that's a Queensland, and that's in most. So we've got an old court.
Yeah. Whereas you go to South Australia, Victoria. I'm pretty sure
in Mackay they have a curtain.
It's that lion and unicorn.
They've got a curtain over it that's halfway closing it. I've actually
That
constructed a curtain.
Yeah, that lion and unicorn is actually the insignia of the monarch. So every time a new monarch takes over, they redo the coat of arms slightly to suit that particular monarch. So
And that's
that power and authority is British, and that's the whole thing. The High Court is a British act. A British court. Go and have a look in the Quick and Garrett. It's a British court.
It's a bit like watching Rake when the barrister comes in, and I've done it many times. I'm like, mate, you got a cat on your head. And they serious. They go, what? And I go, you've got a cat on your head. You look ridiculous. And that brings some pictures. It's a great series, Rake. Anyway, Rake, Australian, if you want to watch something. But yeah. When you go, are you sitting with a cat on your head and you're looking at a unicorn? And you come every day.
Yep. Isn't it interesting, Darryl, when you go to the Australia Act and you look in the definitions, and it's got the definition of court, and Australian court. It actually is the definition of Australian court. It says all courts of the states and the Commonwealth except the High Court.
Yes.
Interesting that. Not an Australian court. What is it?
It can only be one other thing, can't it?
In their private capacity as a blah, blah, blah.
Rather inconvenient.
Yeah.
Bit awkward.
Rather.
So we're getting rapidly approaching that 2-hour mark. Shall we have an intermission?
Yes.
Yeah, we can have a
quick, brief intermission, and we'll come back and bounce a couple more ideas and answer some of these questions.
In writing away, I can see he's got something to say.
Oh, wow. I think we'll just have to let everybody sit there and ponder the idea of what is going to be said then. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will chuck on the old fine art dealer skullduggery because it's the first thing that popped into my mind, and it's easy to access for a brief urinal break and the top up of beverages. So we'll be back in about 4 minutes or so.
sounds good.
All right.
Who runs the
Fine art dealer. Oh, we're getting a bit of back there from somewhere. All right. Yeah, you've got to love that. At least the system seems to have corrected itself, thankfully. Well, it looks like it's just you and me at the moment, Darryl.
Yeah, mate. It's like, wow.
Oh, Darren's back. Yeah, well, I think I'm gonna have to work on some more songs because even the family in the background. Oh, fucking heard that song so many times now. I like it. I think it's a good one. It's a wonderful example of what I can do with a computer too, as far as the construction of that film clip went. So,
Sure.
bit of pat on the back for myself. Somebody's got to do it. And Zach was also complaining that, oh, you played me doing my push-ups to like 3 people. So here you go, Zach. There's 250 people watching now. So here's Zach doing his push-ups.
Don't worry.
Best you can, as many as you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Good effort, son. Good effort. How many more to go for the day?
180.
180. You're going to be sore.
Real sore.
Oh, he's been punching out a few more. And big thanks to the people who have already chucked a couple of bucks to him. He's pretty happy about that. There's the link again, going into the comments. And it is also available on Telegram if you're watching from a place that those comments are not going to. Or you can just drop us a line, help us out, help young Zach out in any way you can. It's for a good cause, for mental health. So I think that needs to be refreshed because I'm pretty sure. Yep, we're up to 175 now. So thanks for that extra little contribution from Anonymous. Much appreciated. So yeah, hopefully that helps Zach and his wonderful cause out. I think his ultimate goal is to collect more than his teacher, But we'll see how it all pans out. Thanks for helping, and thank you, Zach, for a little bit of content there. So Darryl's been eagerly writing away there. He's got some notes ready to release for the people, I believe. It was the cliffhanger before we went for a pee break. What do you got for us, mate?
Oh, mate, I've just been going through this this annotation to the Constitution. It's pretty hard to...
Let's solo screen you there, mate.
Yeah, it's Knowles annotation to the Constitution, 1936.
Rightio.
Yeah, and it pretty much, just reinforcing what Darren was saying earlier about the power of our High Court, but also the power that our courts have, our state courts have as well. So don't lose hope. You can go into your state courts to invalidate a state law. But and this is 1936, so there's only one other annotation that I'm aware of, and that's 1974, and that was the Attorney General at the time. And what's an annotation of the Constitution? That's basically taking High Court cases and with respect to each section of the Constitution that's been brought up in the through the court system and what the court has said about that particular section of the Constitution and the power that has. So, yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating read. After you've gone through the quick and Darren, which is the establishment of our Constitution, it's a good idea to follow on from that and sort of take on board what the courts have been saying and how they're being applied. And, of course, one of the biggest problems we have in this country is when the High Court makes a particular ruling, they essentially, like, I guess the last time was 2023 when the High Court invalidated a tax law, which would have been worth billions of dollars to the states, and that was the electric car tax.
Mm.
So
What are you talking about?
don't think that the High Court are just part of that club that will just do whatever the government tells it to do. That case was a classic example of no, the Constitution prevails here. And we're going to take out this piece of legislation that Victoria was trying to apply, and all the rest of the states were salivating at applying. And the High Court said, no, sorry, not good enough. Section 90 of the Constitution prevails. You don't have the power. So, it works for us. It can work for us when you do it the right way. When you use it the right way, when you apply yourself the right way, you're humbly going in there and you're showing where there's a problem. And they go, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, it can work for you. It can work for you. And we really wanted people of Australia to forget about the idiot brigade. Seriously, we've had a gut full of those muppets. We've just had a gut full. They're just not worth giving your energy to. Seriously, they're just
an analogy just occurred to me then, like in the manner in which you explain that. Would you perhaps compare the scenario in the court to be kind of like, the school scenario, and it's like a bit of a debate, and the teacher's up ahead checking the facts as we go, and basically awards the guy with the better comprehension of the facts,
Yeah, that's it. We'll award the student that's got the intelligence and the patience to sit down and just call us all out, because in reality, that's what we need. We need people who are willing to just say, no, listen, common sense must prevail. And common sense has to prevail for the survival of our species, because stupidity has been reigning for far too long.
And if you haven't seen the movie Idiocracy, I highly recommend that you do, because it may be a potential future if this people don't start to learn these things.
That's right. It's we really need to pick up our game and start retaliating with knowledge.
Well, it's knowledge and history, Darryl. Knowledge and history. These books people don't read anymore. I'm a classic example. I tend to do Audible a lot, but reading and actually filling your brain with something other than just waking up, going to work, making sure the washing's done, do this, do that. I've raised this before. I came across this book from 1958, the Mercantile book, and unfortunately,
bring me up solo layout. Go for that. You want to show that again? Sorry. What's an old one?
1958. Yeah, I found it at the foot of the Atherton Tablelands. The inside bit's actually fallen out, but it's a 4-page lift out. And every into court, they say, put that book down, Miss Ward. But in it is the 4-page lift out that shows exactly how the
actually froze there. You couldn't put it down if you wanted to.
Don't want it seen. This is exactly how the system works from top to bottom, and it's an actual grid on how it works. And it tells you who they contract with, how the bills of exchange work, how promissory notes work, who you can contract with, who you can't. Everyone's so adamant that it's maritime law, but it's actually merchant law. And this book is actually in the Australian Library that you need to sign a non-disclosure for to go in and read it. And I found it on the top shelf of a dusty old bookshop. Pretty cool.
It's amazing what you can find when you're looking for it.
Absolutely.
Or when you're not even looking for it. The things that present themselves, you just happen to by across something and just happens to catch your eye and be one of the most groundbreaking elements of your life, particularly in the written form. And Darren's got one that's being blurred out by his stunning background there.
The red one, that's the next one. I've got that one too, but that's
There we go.
The
Mercantile War on Australia.
Yeah. Fascinating. It's the best book. You want to know about probate, you want to know about bankruptcy, you want to know about anything, it's in that book.
Yeah.
And I myself I just showed before the digital copy of the Quick and Garren annotated constitution, which I will put up for people to get a hold of at the North Queensland Freedom Network Telegram page for anybody who wants to take things to that next level. I actually couldn't tell you where I got it from, but I wouldn't mind betting that Darren gave it to me.
Now, Heidi, didn't you discover that a woman's maiden name plays more of a role than their married name?
Yeah, so in that document that I just put up, when it goes down to the contract, what you can't contract with is an alien, which we know there's the Aliens Act. And
So no Martians.
No
Martians.
Alien is someone that's not a citizen resident of the country.
What about them shapeshifters that David Icke talks about?
On topic.
No, they're the Anunnaki.
No, the Lunatic and Drunkards Act.
Oh, Struth, we're all fucked.
Married women, bankrupts, or convicts. So you can't contract with a married woman. So unless, so when you get married on the day that you get married and you marry said partner, you actually become contracted to them unless, contract to them, but your legal name does not become their legal name unless you contact birth, deaths, and marriages. In order to change your legal name. And that was raised in the commissioner case when I was recently there. They said, "Are you Miss Ward?" And I said, "Well, that's actually strange because I just found out from birth, deaths, and marriages. I have a house, I have a card, I have a license, everything. It's not my legal name. You think you would know because you're the government. You're running this show. I've got to show any ID when I come into court. So I don't think it is my legal name." Well, she got quite shaken up and she didn't know what to say. She said, "What were you known by?" I said, "But that's not the name on the piece of paper. It's not my legal name. And I don't know how that happened. I wasn't on the wiser." And that's how Jessica Polzoni, in her case that I can't talk too much about, she actually spelt out her married name thinking she was doing the right thing. That's HZX versus QPS QSC 168, the precedent. She was held in custody for 40 days because she didn't appear in court because she spelt her married name because they arrested her on her maiden name. Whereas her maiden name is actually her legal name because she hadn't changed it at births, deaths, and marriages. So one has to ponder. You get your license, you use it through your marriage certificate, or even how a married person can use, individual can use that maiden name to get a license, to get a house mortgage, to get anything. Because unless you've actually got a legal certificate from births, deaths, and marriages, you remain the maiden name.
Wow.
Yeah, I challenge anyone. Inundate births, deaths, and marriages tomorrow, ladies, and find out what your name is.
So I'm not familiar with the whole marriage process scenario. So
I don't know. I saw some baby bassinets and bottles in the background there, Mark.
Yeah, you're the birth certificate name. That's what you're trying to say.
that doesn't. You don't need that sort of thing without marriage. You know, it's a circumstantial scenario. But all that aside, in all seriousness, I don't know it's too expensive. and it involves contracts with governments and religious people that I don't really prescribe to. So, you know, wow, you show me some sort of a lawful entity to. I mean, let's break it down. Hey, babe, we got this really good thing going. You know, why don't you and I bring in a religion and a government to, you know, oversee what we already share? It makes no sense to me, but that's just my personal view. Now, for those who have decided to partake in such a ritual, you know, are you supposed to get that certificate? Does anybody get that certificate? Is that where things have gone wrong, or are you a unique scenario there, Heidi?
But that is actually a contract between you and the person you married, vice versa. In order to change your legal identity as a female to
It's a three-party contract. The
That's
three-party
right.
contract.
Back in and do it, but then you go, how then do I have a house? You know, like I'm 27 years in with an illegal name that I had no idea about.
Wow.
How did I buy a house and get a mortgage if it wasn't a legal document?
So the state has given you this name that you're allowed to contract with and get houses and all these other elements, bank accounts and all that, but you don't have an actual document provided by these same people who have created this entity that confirms it.
No, you keep your maiden name. In order to change your legal name, you have to contact birth, deaths and marriages and say, I'd like to take on my husband's name. And then in births, deaths and marriages, they change the name and you get a certificate as such. If you don't do that, you are still legally the maiden name.
So everybody who's gone and gotten married and assumed that process just happens, which is possibly the majority of the human race, has been acting in fraud in a sense.
Yep.
Well, I would call it
facilitated by a government and completely fucked up.
What's the case? Proudman versus Damon. Innocent mistake. They didn't know.
Ah, righto. Innocent mistake. Wow. That's a big one.
If you submitted, most people wouldn't know.
Yeah. Well, I have to wonder, has anybody actually followed that procedure? I'm curious. Anybody out there, like whether you're watching right now or after the fact? I know most people watch after the fact, but you know, let me know. Has anybody actually contacted birth, deaths, and marriages and completed this process?
Or challenge them to contact and ask the question.
Yeah.
It's opened up a can of worms.
Yeah, definitely. A whole country full of can of worms.
All legal documents. Wow.
It's all about the constructed trust as long as you show 100 points of ID. So a point when you lose your license is, you know, a penalty point. What's a license? It's worth 50 points. A birth certificate's worth 50 points. A passport's worth 50 points. What are the points? I still haven't worked out what the point is.
We must be playing that basketball game where the referee can acknowledge or disacknowledge a bloody goal.
So if you're a married woman and 50 points of ID is your birth certificate that doesn't have your married name on it, how's it 50 ID?
Yeah. Awkward.
A bit awkward, isn't it?
Very fascinating.
Down the rabbit hole we go.
Yeah.
Alice, where are you?
It's a big one. That is a big one. Hang on. I think somebody's trying to subvert the process of commenting here.
Oh, hello, big brother.
Here we go. Everyone born pre-1974 doesn't have a surname on their birth certificate, apparently.
No.
After. Well, none of us here qualify to look.
Well, I thought pre as in before. Wouldn't it be post as in after?
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no.
I think
Well,
I don't qualify.
I don't qualify.
No, I don't qualify. No.
You weren't born before 1974, Darryl.
No, I was supposed to be there when the Magna Carta was drafted, apparently.
That's it. I often hear about this toga and whatnot when you tune into the Know Your Right show.
Yeah. And apparently they've got a photograph, with me and King John. So.
Well, you can talk about photographic evidence on a radio show. It's all right. You don't
Oh, mate. Yeah, I was apparently at all these different places. I was the coach for Jesus' football team too.
Around when Moses was in short pants and all the rest.
Yeah, crazy. Fancy running around in the middle of winter in the cold football oval, kicking a bit of leather. Crazy.
Well,
Yeah, I fucking hated it. I fought like bloody to the end. The old man dragged me to the footy field. I think I can't remember the exact age. It was about that grade 5, grade 6 period. Dragged me there. In the shorts, and I'm like, no, I'm done. I don't want to do this. I want to sit in front of the fireplace and watch cartoons. Fuck this shit. And I got to the footy field, and I'm like, righto, well, you got me here. Now I'm going to sit here and do fuck all. I'm not playing. And he's screaming at the coach, make him play. And the coach is like, can't make him play. Doesn't want to play. Maybe you should take him home. Wouldn't talk to me for weeks on end, but I think the point might have finally got across with peaceful protest.
Oh, mate. Yeah, it physically hurts you to play that game. Yeah. It's not a good idea.
Yeah, especially when you're down the back end getting flogged constantly, you don't see the ball. I mean, again, it was another one of those motivating speeches from the old man. Why weren't you paying attention? Because the ball hadn't been down here for 45 minutes. And me and the rest of the kids decided to throw grass at each other to keep warm.
But it's not if you're going to get hurt in that game. It's just simply how badly you're going to get it.
Yeah, and win. Yeah, that's right.
Well, those are the majority of my memories, other than being yelled at. It was the inherent pain that come across by being absolutely destroyed by a kid that was twice your size, but somehow in that legal age bracket.
I have similar memories, but did you have your T-shirt over your head bored talking to yourself while you're doing it?
No, I can't say I ever did that one. That's a unique scenario.
Yeah.
No, I did that. Yeah.
Okay.
I just called it legalized assault.
Yeah.
Certainly seemed that way.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think
Jaquie,
we've just lost the majority of the sporting community.
Hey, hi.
Are you? I see the patience on your face. Are you wanting to say?
I'm doing a Darren. I'm working on stuff in the background. I'm working on this notice to the High Court. Anyhow,
fair enough. All right. Well, let's field some questions. So Zusi says, "Okay, I'm from Danistan, aka Victoria, and have deregistered from APRA and would like to add my name as a plaintiff."
Yay!
So we've got one, and I believe we've helped Zusi out with the appropriate emails there, but I just thought I'd put that one in there to inspire everybody else to perhaps do the same.
Awesome, Zusi. Info at Know Your Rights.
That's it.
Fantastic.
Put that up here.
Again, for those who don't know, info at Know Your Rights is the way to go forward if you want to know more.
If you want to be a plaintiff or you bring a matter against the state or the Commonwealth or APRA or council.
I thought that was your email, Jaquie, not Mike Palmer's.
Don't bring the turtle man into it. Don't bring the turtle man into it.
The turtle man.
That's all right. It's in here. We're going to leave that alone. Totally.
And of course, we have partly done some paperwork to challenge the intrusion that this entity called APRA has infiltrated between the doctor and the patient.
Yes.
That's another case where we're basically saying, well, hang on, the contract between the doctor and the patient has been annihilated.
Usurped.
Yeah.
And
they've removed the private part of it, and they've inserted a mandate.
Yeah, the privity rules out the door.
That's right. And the doctor's under duress from APRA, otherwise they lose their ability to be a doctor if they don't prescribe certain medication on instruction from a foreign power. So we're saying, hang on, who the hell are you, APRA, to intrude on that doctor-patient relationship?
Or Darryl even banned, like we saw through COVID, that ivermectin and even antibiotics were banned.
Oh, look, it's just insane. The bottom line with that case as well, though, Darryl, is that, as we said earlier, that we can no longer go to our doctors and ask for their opinion. We cannot trust them anymore because it's as if APRA and the Medical Board of Australia are sitting in there with a gun to our doctors' heads.
Yeah.
Saying, if you say this or you say that, we're going to deregister you or we're going to suspend you. So, yeah, as you said, they've interfered with the doctor-patient relationship. No third party's got any rights or obligations. It's absolutely, like, the more you go in depth into this, it's just so ludicrous. Everything is such an hypocrisy. Everything's an oxymoron. Our doctor's there to keep you safe, but they're not allowed to give you any information, so you cannot make, an informed decision. You cannot provide informed consent.
Jaquie, I can tell you, I went away for a weekend mid-COVID when all the jibby jabs were happening with a Indigenous doctor, actually, and on Hayman Island, and I was sitting with her in a lounge chair, and she was showing me all the factual evidence why she shouldn't be doing it. And I'm like, good on you. And then coming home on the boat, she actually told me that she was booked in for the weekend to vaccinate something like 200 people in the local area, knowing full well, but she was getting $90 per vaccine, and she was a bit broke at the time. And I left her on the boat, left her car at the thing, and I said, never speak to me again. I haven't spoken to her since.
Look, it's insane. What they basically did was they, like, I've got this in my notice to the High Court, but you know what APRA really did is they criminalised the ability of doctors to provide give informed discussion. They criminalised it. It's insane.
What? Like $90 for a vaccine over 200 people over a weekend. That's a lot of money.
Look, like when you go into it, weren't the hospitals also provided something like, it was either $35,000 or $45,000 per patient per death in the hospital if they noted it as they had died from COVID, and
cancer or flu.
Yeah, and then they offered, even if they'd had a bike accident, and died that way, for example, and they offered the, like a few families came forward and were just...
From several people I know that they were offered $30,000, and then you go to the...
Yeah, I thought it was 10,000, but there you go.
30,000, you go to the COVID vaccine insurance, if you had a COVID vaccine, go on to this. Nobody has been paid.
Of course they haven't.
Because there's a 3-year, 4-year longevity, and then they've got to show the PIPA, the personal injury, blah, 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 blah.
You've got to prove that you didn't have an underlying issue, and how many people are going to be able to do that?
Well, I know someone that did. He had 3 heart attacks. His kids took him to the doctors. I said, don't do the PIPA, because once you do that, you won't be able to do a personal claim because they're now in control of your claim, because you've gone to them and said, hey, you got no representation. You're filling in a form.
Look, it's
Yeah.
this is the sickening thing is that it's still going on. I had my mum. We put in an aged care facility last year, and it's a great facility. She's looked after very well, and she's really happy because her dementia would have that. You know, I'd be there with her for 4 days. I'd leave on a Friday night. My sister would arrive the next day, and Mum would say, "Oh, I don't know when I saw Jacqueline last. You know, it's been such a long time." And my sister would have to say, "Mum, she's been with you the last 4 days." So it was really sad watching this. So now she's really happy she's got people around her. But all the families of those in the aged care facilities were sent out letters from, like, Mum's in an Opal healthcare one, asking, you know, is it all right to give our family member, so my mum, a COVID vaccine? And you can imagine what I did. I said, well, excuse me. I said, but there's something that is missing within the context of this. I said, now, my sister and I have already provided you the fact that Mum has had 4 major adverse reactions. Respiratory, she had pneumonia, she had clots, and she had a heart issue as well. So if you go to the government website on COVID vaccines, there is a section there. I've got it on my phone, actually. I should share it again on bloody Facebook, where even on the government's own website, it says you should not be given a COVID vaccine if you have had any severe adverse reactions or if you are on blood thinning medication. So I went to the people at the Opal Healthcare and I said, I think I could safely assume here or presume that 90% of your residents here are on blood thinning medication. So they should not be given a COVID vaccine. So I caused such a stink with that they called a great big meeting, and they got back to me and said, oh, look, it's in the links. We provide that information in the links. And I just said, well, that's not good enough because this is crucial. How many people are going to go into the links? It should be in the body of your letter or your email out to people, warning them of that. Like, it's ludicrous.
We had a local teacher who also owned a, don't quote me, mRNA school.
The mRNA injection, genome altering.
People that do,
a phlebotomist or something to that effect.
They've got what's it called? They go in cages and bash each other up. Anyway.
UFC. UFC. I used to love UFC. It's got soft now. It was great 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Anyway, he had a very low, fat level in his body. He's had prior adverse infection reactions to vaccines in the past. He was the physical ed teacher at
That's true, Sam. No vaccine's been safe in history.
Catholic school up the road. My partner's son had a adverse reaction. It's not for me to speak about, but yes, it's ongoing. But anyway, he was banned from the school. He lost his job as the phys ed teacher. He carried on with his MMA,
mixed
MMA.
martial arts.
Oh, mixed martial arts. Oh,
which is a precursor to UFC.
And he challenged the doctor and said, look, I've had all these adverse reactions and this and that and the other thing, and I don't want to have it, but I'm going to lose my job and whatever. And you know what the doctor offered him? We can have an ambulance out the front of the surgery and pay.
For God's sake. Well, look, I mean, that's the other side of things. The doctor-patient relationship has not just been
one step away from saying, sorry, the coroner will be out the door as well.
It's insane. It's insane.
Pharmacist pushing the drugs, and he actually gave someone a drug it's a small town. Everyone knows about it. They had to get the defibs, and he died 2 days later.
Oh, my God.
He's the president of the Chamber of Commerce of our town, still pushing them. Across literally 10 metres from Khan's surgery.
Doctors can be sued. Doctors can be sued by individuals if they proceeded to give their patient a COVID vaccine if their patient made it clear to them that they didn't want to get it but were being forced to because they were going to lose their job. That's contract law.
But
You
now
know, the
the
contract
government-
was automatically breached because they entered into it under fear, duress, coercion and undue influence. So those doctors can be bloody well sued. Is that correct, Darren and Darryl?
The government's actually saying to sue the employer.
Yeah, well, this is the other thing. You can sue the employer, and then from there, the employer would then have the ability to sue the state, because the states, to the best of my knowledge, correct me again, guys, if I'm wrong, but they put a penalty onto employers of $35,000 per employee that continued to work absent vaccination. They threatened to fine every employer $35,000. Like, it's, and you got to
just
love
think
it.
about it. If you take away the doctor's discretion to say, no, this person's got, pre-existing whatever it happens to be, that stops them from getting the vaccine. If you take away that discretion, then you impose a form of civil conscription, because the doctor has to provide the service.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well, that's why we're looking at doing the civil conscription against the Commonwealth. Darryl's got the stuff on that. I've sent you through some stuff too, Betty, because the Commonwealth funded the vaccines that were ordered in bulk due to the civil conscription that the states put into their acts. So they funded civil conscription.
Have this one. Has there ever been a vaccine that we know of going to the doctors that they say, would you like Pfizer or would you like Moderna? Which one would you like?
Oh, and you've got to love it. Dan, here in Victoria, I think Moderna was the first one that they got rid of, to the best of my knowledge, in Australia, because it caused so many adverse reactions and harm. And Moderna, the Victorian government's just supported the Moderna factory opening up here in Victoria.
I thought they had planned to do that ages ago.
Well, they probably did, but after they caused so many deaths, this is the insanity of it. It's an upside down world. I saw that comment before.
AstraZeneca was one of the biggest ones. I remember a friend of mine saying he'd gone in and they've pick your poison, and decided to go, well, I can't remember which one he picked, but it was an AstraZeneca. And in the end, according to your age group, you're supposed to get AstraZeneca. Well, what was the point of asking me then?
And now the government have come out and said that the COVID vaccine should not be given to anybody under the age of 18.
Yes,
I did hear that today. Actually.
There's a local, shall I call it, entrepreneur.
There's got to be accountability. Got to be accountability.
In the town that I live in, he's one of the richest people in the country, said richest people, and he developed this as I recall, a leak test that you put on a USB and you put it in the side of the computer, and he sold that to America for quite a few $1 million. And that's never been heard of, never been seen. He lives in this town. He lives where I live. And he sold, I think it's around 20, could be another zero on it, $1 million for a said thing. And he had an entire science lab in Brisbane all set up. And I believe that's just non-existent anymore. It's just an empty building now.
Wow.
Crazy.
Well, a whole list of questions to get through.
Let's go.
Do you have to correct your status under the right of jurisdiction asked on 1123? Yep. Sorry?
I've got 10 minutes and I have to go.
No, that's all right. Is there anything you'd like to say before you have to go then?
No, I said that an hour ago. It's called spontaneous conversation.
Okay, no worries. Anyway, to the question. Do you have to correct your status under the right of jurisdiction? Says Don 1123.
That could mean many things.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's
kinda what
very
I-
open.
Very
Yeah.
broad. Please refine question. All right, next.
Yes.
Do you think any High Court judges may be compromised? Truth, probably.
Depends on your definition of what compromised is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, to date,
So,
they've upheld the
compro-
Constitution to date.
Yeah.
Actually, didn't
They've
you
made the
have
correct
something
decisions.
to
Could,
say on-
compromise
that
could mean
previously?
being a member of the Jimmy Savile Club.
Yeah.
What's that got to do with their
the
decision?
eye of the beholder? Well, I seem to think that you said something to this on a I Know You're Right show, Darren. I believe you've answered a similar question in the past.
In regards to High Court justices,
Well, the idea of them being compromised.
yeah, I don't believe they are. I don't believe they are. They try and keep out the or keep those types of cases out. There's a bit of a gatekeeper in the registrars,
That's right.
and just like we witnessed with Dr. Valerie and Rod Cullerton,
Rather than deal with it, they sidestep.
they've rebounded it down into the federal court, even though the federal court can't provide the remedy that's actually sought. But yeah, there's I don't know. I don't know if the justices are. You've got to remember, like, who was it? Beach Jones, who ruled on the was it
Kazan versus Hazard.
Kazan versus Hazard case. He's actually now sitting on the High Court.
Well, he's the one that he's the newest member, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's the one that was heard Dr. Beverly and and Rod at the 9th of April at the directions hearing. He is the one who remitted to them to the federal court, and both of them presented very good arguments, saying that the High Court is the only court that has got the jurisdiction to hear the matter, and they raised that issue of the remedies that they seek being to invalidate, the state acts, Rod W.A., Dr. Beverly, Victoria, and both of them challenged the ability of the jurisdictions, the territorial operation of the Federal Court of Australia. And Beach Jones's answer was, he just went, he said, I'm not sure about that, and remitted them.
Well,
Yes,
I guess that's a really good thing.
Well,
if
that
we're-
almost seems like an answer to this question unto itself, really, doesn't it? Like, I mean, in that particular instance, the guy's got a bit of a dodgy background, and rather than deal with it, let's just.
Well,
push
he's
it
the
away.
newest member to the High Court. He'd only just come in, so let's see what goes on when we get a full bench.
Well, it could be a case of, all right, cool. He's the new one. He's
Look,
the easy one to say.
Okay, but look, okay, I'm going to knock that out. Okay, so he's done that,
Further.
but the High Court have got a filtration system. So if you lodge a matter that is what they consider frivolous, vexatious, or ill-conceived, they will not hear the matter. So the fact that the High Court accepted both of Rod's and Dr. Beverly's matters says that they are not corrupt. They got them into the High Court. So now it's just a matter of
the system itself. But in this case, the question is High Court judges, the judge itself. So the system itself has allowed the matter to go through, or at least to be heard. In
the
some
justices
capacity.
have. A
And
justice
this
allowed it, yeah.
specific Judge has handballed it on. Not necessarily saying "fuck you," we're not playing. Didn't go. Rather avoided the scenario in a sense, perhaps trying to push it away.
Well,
And
I think
again,
it's a
using
delay
the-
tactic.
the,
Yeah, it's a
lack of
delay tactic,
experience
Batty.
as a-
That's what it is. Because he said,
it's a very convenient scenario.
yeah, well, he did say that the matters have a good prospect of success, and he was certain, fairly certain that both of the matters were going to end up back in the High Court. So to me, it was a bit of a stalling tactic.
Yeah,
by Beach
and
Jones, but
admittedly,
regardless.
with that wording, that seems like, yeah, I'm admitting that it's going to work. I'm just don't want to deal with it today. Fuck you. Going to make your life hard.
Yeah.
Which which
Well,
would
I tell you, yeah.
indicate, hang on, somebody's pressuring him,
Well,
or hey, I got this job for
yeah,
this
but hold
specific
on.
purpose.
Hold on. There's other reasoning behind it as well, which were because, as Darryl said, like this is the first time we were ever in the history, Australia's history, that lay people have gotten into the court absent any legal representation and are speaking to High Court justices. So this is the thing. The cases have been created by lay people as well. And that was something that hold on a minute, Heidi, just let me finish what I've got to say because I'll get off track. So he also said that it was the form of the way the cases were presented. So you've got the writ of summons and the statement of claims, but there is a format that the pleadings were not in the correct format. So quite often what the court will do, the High Court, is they will remit the matter, for example, to the Federal Court of Australia to sort out the paperwork and get the administrative side of things so it's in order. So there you go. I just needed to get that out before. Anyhow.
All right. Well, we'll see how it plays out in that regard. You've provided a very wonderful
You're a trooper, Jaquie.
answer. We'll just go with that. Heidi, please. Go ahead.
No, I forgot now.
Okay, next question. How bad does it have to get? Don't wait till it gets to your doorstep where it's too late and we cannot critically think that you're. That seems more. Sorry, that's not a question. But anyway, let's move on to the panel. If Plan A fails us, do we have a Plan B? I like the way he used the word "we."
We
I
are
can include you into that, Martin. What's your Plan B? Because you've made it a we.
What's Plan A? There's a lot of things going on at the moment. I mean, which one's Plan A?
Yeah. Well, I
We've
would
got
assume,
lots of backup plans.
Plan A being, what we're presenting here being the Solemn League and Covenant of the people of the Commonwealth of Australia.
What? Do what you do to police, asking the same question back. What's your Plan A, mate?
Yep. Nice.
Cool. Listen, I look at it like this. We are under attack. The people of the Commonwealth are under attack. Our government has been usurped. We are not experiencing good governance, peace, or anything else. Nothing is being done for the good of the people. Instead, we have got conspirators in government that are sabotaging our nation. So we've got to stand up and do something. This is the thing. It's up to us. We, the people, are the, supreme, absolute, and ultimate authority of this nation.
All right, let's say Plan A is stand up.
Plan B must be sit down.
Well, the other thing is then you've got to start addressing the issues, don't we? So how do we do that? We go into the court, which is what, Darryl was talking about. This is what Rod and Beverly are doing. Dr. Valerie's in the courts as well. We've got cases written, that's seeking plaintiffs to start presenting that. I mean, this is the thing, out of how many millions of Australians who just need some plaintiffs. And I guess, the thing is set up, give, send, goes for plaintiffs because, as we can see, Dr. Beverly's got $60,000 of costs awarded against her. And I think we've raised just under half of that to date. So if every Australian just got together and put in bloody $5, she'd be laughing. And Rod, etc. We need the people of Australia to get behind these champions that are fighting for all Australians in the courts to restore law. That's what we need. So that's Plan B.
And ultimately, for everybody with all the reasons why something can't happen and all the doomsday plans.
Let's just sit back and do nothing.
Can you maybe just turn that on its head and think about the things that you can do? Think about what you can provide to help. What are you good at? I mean, it's one of those things I tend to try to instill as much as possible. What can you do? You know, it's not
Anything.
about what you can't do. Don't tell, you know, and I hear it all the time, whether I'm at work, whether I'm at home, it doesn't matter where I go. You can always hear the, I can't, I don't want to, and all these sorts of negative concepts. All right, cool. So
Just
let's start
ridiculous.
with the, what can I do? What am I able to do? Right, here's the problem. Where do I see a solution? Instead of going to other people and saying, okay, cool. Well, it's wonderful. You guys have formulated a plan A. If that fails, allow me. I'll think of a plan B.
Yep.
You know, rather than putting it all back on the same people who put their effort in the first place. You know,
And
I don't get that concept of the constant negativity.
and the people sitting on this podcast right now, whilst we're having a little chat and humorous chat, the hours and hours and hours of research and paperwork and
Years.
you can't put it into context, right? It's literally consuming an hours, and we're not doing this because we want to. We'd rather be sitting on the fucking beach having a beer like the rest of them, right? So, we would.
Yeah.
Me, for one, I'd be rather painting a picture or doing something creative.
We've
You
been
know?
in it 25 years too, Martin. Darryl, you've been in it for at least 30.
Darryl stated a similar number at the beginning of this podcast.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
there's
no
no.
offense, Martin. I mean, I see you on the chat and the comments all the time, my friend. But I see a lot of questions.
Get behind the FUCCP.
Now, I'm gonna put this into context. We're just average day, every people. We're not trying to do anything but what we're trying to do, right? You've got Mark that's running the show. He's had enough. He's got a voice. Jaquie, you're doing what you're doing. You stood on the steps of Parliament through COVID. I watched you before I even met you, you know. And then we've got Darren. I met him at Epic Park, and then through being arrested, I met Darryl. And through this, I know what each and everyone is doing and have done for the last 5 years. We're not sitting back and going, oh, can you send me that document so I can sign it? Which is pretty much what you're doing, Jaquie. You're handing it with a platter, right? We are actually the one writing the document, making sure it's correct, checking it under scrutiny of other people saying, yeah, it's not correct, right? We're trying. We might not get it right, but we're trying. We're in the court. Well, my situation's completely different, but I'm in the court. Bang.
We're all learning. That's the thing. We're all learning. We learn as we go. And this is a part of, you know, picking over the cases, just like you do, Hides. We pick through the cases, all of the transcripts, all of the determinations, go, nah, wrong, mischaracterised, misinterpretation of High Court case law. That is blatantly against due process. That's bias, that's this, and pulling it apart and going back in. And this is why they put the costs against the plaintiffs, etc., to stop them seeking justice. So this is why it is absolutely crucial that we continue to go into the courts. Dr. Beverly, Rod, everybody, yourself, keep fighting.
Hey, Heidi, can you just hold that stack of paperwork up for me? That big stack that you had there, can you hold that up again, please, Heidi?
That's only one. I think she's got 100 stacks like that.
And what I want to emphasize here is this is not something you look at and go, oh, fuck me, I don't want to deal with that, run and hide.
That's the
He's holding that up as inspiration.
People are doing it for you.
I want to be that strong.
That's the transcript that the magistrate adjudicated and found a verdict in 2 hours. He's a pretty good reader, isn't he, that fucker?
Fuck yeah.
People are doing that work, like Heidi, Darryl, Darren, etc. We've got, you know, they are doing the work, the paperwork. We just need people to get behind those doing the work.
100%. Now, I want to raise one last thing that I was going to raise, really. It's to do with magistrates' courts and indictable offences and summary offences. What I've learnt recently in my own case, when you're charged with an indictable offence, I'm not going to get into my exact case scenario because of the concern of the News Corp. So when you're charged with an indictable offence, you're actually entitled to a jury.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, and that comes under certain sections 552, capital A, capital B in Queensland, and how that works, particularly if you're a self-represented litigant. So a lot of people have been seeing what I'm doing or being in the gallery and watching what I'm doing. And
well, hey, Heidi, we've got a Supreme Court of Victoria made a determination. Justice Gorton of the Supreme Court of Victoria determined, because Dr. Valerie, she's challenged all three elements of jurisdiction, and she challenged the Magistrates Court being the jurisdiction of them being able to hear indictable offences absent, get this, informed consent. And Justice Gorton of the Supreme Court awarded that. So for any magistrate, my understanding is that's a superior court. They need to take that on board. You must have informed consent.
He's going to take it on board. So what they did in my serious assault, in my serious charge, what they did when I raised that 2 years and 6 months later after finally getting to trial, I raised the fact that I didn't consent to a summary jurisdiction, and it was
informed consent. That's the thing. You can consent, but if it's not informed, bang.
But the point is, under the sections of the law, also being non-represented, they'd run out of time to commit it up, but I'd already put an application for a registry committal, which was denied. And when I raised it, the way the magistrate went on and said, oh, we don't, and what they did is they dropped the elements of aggravation to find jurisdiction in it. And they said, oh, I'm sure you're okay with that, Miss Ward, it's all in the transcript. And then right at the pip of the post, they charged me with one of the, a won for, a lost for, one of the serious assaults that never was arraigned and never had jurisdiction in the court. And I have heard about 3 other cases this week that this has happened to.
Well, this is what they do. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
This is what they are doing. The collusion, the bias, and the perversion of justice is astronomical. They've been getting away with it for decades. So this is all a part of the ploy where the police will stack the charges. So they will give you 7 charges, or let's say 10 charges for the same crime of the same element that has occurred at the same time, or, you know, of the same element. So everyone's got their little handshakes. They probably all met at the barbecue on the weekend. Your lawyer, the magistrate, the prosecutor, and your magistrate walks you down to the back and says, oh, okay, let's go and see if we can do some plea bargaining. And the prosecutor goes, oh, listen here, Jack, you know, if you plead guilty, hold on, if you plead guilty to one of those charges, we'll drop the other 9. And you go, oh, thank you so much. So you consent. And that's how they're getting away with it.
I raised that in court, and the magistrate that said that doesn't happen. I said, I can tell you from that room to that room to right there, it did happen. And then my transcript of the magistrate's decision outside of all transcripts was 20 days delayed. It's been altered. It's unbelievable, but it's gold in the same breath. So what we're saying is you get dropped down a peg, the opportunity to feeding the enemy is provided by the enemy themselves, because in order to lie, if you're a liar, you have to lie about the lie. And once you lie about the lie, you got to lie about the next lie. And ultimately, it's going to come. Yeah.
It's a snowball. It's out of control. Yeah. I just want to quickly address this one question that just popped up. Is there a limit to how many times you can be a witness on the covenant? I don't believe there's so many times you can witness.
No. Yeah, that's correct.
But
absolutely correct.
You can sign it yourself once, as is stated here in this particular element.
I actually took that from my grandfather's 1912 one, where it says that they individually declare that you have not signed already signed the covenant.
Yeah.
So you could only sign it
Only
once,
sign
but you
it
could
once.
witness however many.
But you can't
while
be
we're on
both
that-
witnesses on the one covenant.
So you can't
Sorry.
witness yourself. You can't be me,
You
myself,
can't
and I.
be both witnesses on the one covenant.
No,
So you
no,
do
no,
need
it's going to be,
two
yeah,
separate
of course.
witnesses. Yeah.
Thank you, Darren. Can I just clarify with that as well, that when you print the covenant out, read it, and it's very important. I have written the words here that it's to all Australians. This is the call to action to all Australians of honour and conscience. So read the covenant, get your head around it, and sign it. And I wanted to do, part of this, getting into the private, doing it with an autograph. But as I said, I did a little bit of research on the etymology of words, and autograph is not as lawful a terminology. So I have it written that I set forth this autograph as signature, binding in law and spirit. So once you've signed it, autographed it, and got your two different witnesses who know you to put their name and autograph it as well, make sure you date it. So many haven't dated it. Put the date on it, take a photograph or scan it and email it back to me at Solemn League and Covenant at gmail.com. Thank you very much.
Hey
Very
guys,
straightforward stuff.
nearly 11 o'clock on a Friday night because we're such social bloody individuals, aren't we? Out on the town having a good time.
Yep.
We've got a meeting in the morning.
Taxi.
Yeah, I've got to get up too, and it's well beyond my bedtime. I'm going to wish
No, you're
everyone good night. I'm going to leave with, I don't know if anyone's seen this, the picture that I did of the last judge that
Up a bit high. Yep, that's gold. I love that.
That's gold.
that's Justice North.
Brilliant.
Told that he's not a justice, he's a judge, and apparently a justice is different to a judge by a magistrate. So I don't know.
You'd have to wonder if it might be another option to turn the sheep around so you can see the dags.
Don't give her any ideas. That's going to be the next.
I love that. That's my next goal.
There you go. The next judge that pisses you off gets the dag.
Yeah, during dog. Oh well, Justice, my dog Justice has got his removed. Maybe I could just say stay, sit, drop, and I can paint a portrait so I know what that actually looks like.
Before you go though, Heidi, I do want to bring up Steve comment here where Heidi will be able to build a whole house out of all her paperwork.
But I chopped all the trees down to make the paper, mate.
Yeah, I know. And we've been saving the world for like decades now with this digital society. Isn't it working so fucking well?
You'd never get a Guernsey with the Greens, would she?
Abby Chatfield game on.
Although that said, somebody did happen to tell me recently that all those political signs that they get around and they use the big plastic and all the rest of it. What are call flute signs they call them? Apparently, the Greens are the ones who use the thickest of the plastic. You can't have a plastic bag when you go to Coles and Woolworths, but the Greens can have the thickest plastic for their core flute.
But that's just the transcript, and I haven't finished the submission. I have to make 3 copies of that.
Oh wow!
So I'm looking at least 15 reams of paper to meet the legality to file in court. But in the High Court, it's all electronic. You can't physically put anything on paper in the High Court.
There you go. I did not know that.
It's all drop and drag into the High Court. But I can't even email a submission to the court. So where I live, it takes 6 days for me to get a submission by post to where it needs to go to. So I'm always restricted by a lack of. So let's say they say you've got 7 days. I've got 1 day because I know the post is delayed. Sorry, mate, about the paper. Sorry.
And the printer can only work so fast.
I know I got a big printer. I got a huge printer.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Gonna have to print out novels like that each time. So
Yeah. So my last boss bought that for me. Yeah. Anyway. It's like a $5,000 printer I've got. It's pretty cool.
oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
God.
Gonna need one. I don't reckon my $400 print is gonna
There it
fucking
is.
cut the mustard.
There it is.
That's about the same size as my $300 one.
Yeah, well, he told me it was $1,500. So I don't know.
Hope you
I'll
claimed it
believe-
on tax.
What did you say?
I hope you
Tax.
claimed it on tax.
What,
Yeah.
Did you? What's that?
You got to pay tax to claim tax or something like that.
I don't even know what T. Did you say? I can't spell TA. Nah, haven't done that in 15 years, mate.
Mm. That's a whole nother podcast. You just open a whole worm of question. I can see the questions already forming as they're busily typing them. But let's deal with the ones that we've already got backed up.
You don't
Question.
file a tax return,
And
you don't have
if you've got to go, Heidi, that's okay. But feel free to stick around.
Uh-huh.
Question. Once the current corporate parliament is dissolved, do we have an alternative to replace them? Which is a valid question.
Yep.
Has anyone thought that far into the future?
Darren,
Read chapter 1 of the Constitution. It's all in there.
Yeah.
A lot of
rules
this stuff's
all
all
there.
underway in the background.
It
It's
should be
all-
fundamentally pretty straightforward.
That's
It is 100%.
the new plaintiff.
It's
Unless
just simply
Susie's
back to
at fault.
basics.
Return to what it should have been. Reset.
Exactly.
They wanted a great reset. Let's just do it the right way instead of the satanic way.
Yeah.
Next question. Where can you purchase a physical book of the annotated Constitution from? Fuck that. Go to the... I just fucking put...
You can download it
digital
off Constitution
copy
Watch.
and download it off Constitution Watch if you can't find it from the North Queensland Freedom Network. Either one will do. There you go. Fucking save yourself some money.
But if
Save the world paper, because not all of
Yeah.
us want to build a
Or
house out of
you
paper.
can buy from LexisNexis, or if you want the original version, Wayne Glue sells an original version. So if you want the version without all the changes with the referendums and all the case law that goes with it, then that's probably your best if you're looking for an historical version. If you're looking for the most up-to-date version, the LexisNexis would probably be the best one. I know there's a big dispute that goes on about the green and the red book. The original one's the red one is the historical one, as written, and the latest one is the one as changed by you, the sovereign voting body of Australians. So it includes all those changes that have happened in the 42 referendums, or even though there's only a certain amount of them in the past, about a dozen. So, or you can have the original. I've got an original pressing of the. There it is. What about this one?
Hang on, give me a second.
Have a look at this one.
Oh wow, look at the age on that.
So this is the
that's the one you
1901
picked up.
pressing.
You picked that up. I think it was America or something. You're telling me, fucking about 10 fucking odd years ago, if not more.
Yeah, and the print itself, it's been done on a printer that pushes it embossed the letters so that they're raised on each piece of the paper. Quite interesting.
Oh wow! So you can see it's been punched in.
Yeah,
Literally.
essentially, yeah.
Punching the information in, much like you have to do,
Yeah.
like the difference between a drummer and a drum machine, like with a drum machine, you only have to punch the information in once.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. How do you know when the drum rises level?
Oh, I've forgotten.
There's dribble coming out both sides of the drummer's mouth.
Nice. Good old muso jokes, just to segue things a little bit. All right. Next question. Will the decree be issued to the High Court? That's coming back from...
Yeah, absolutely. This is the thing with the Solemn League and Covenant, and I'm still working. That's what I'm doing now. I'm working on the notice and decree declaration to the High Court. Both of these documents, once they're signed, are going to be collected up. I've given the 9th of July being the significant date of the 125th year anniversary that Queen Victoria signed the Constitution. And if you're into numerology, that's, 3 times 3, 9. And it's also adds up in numerology to 7, being a lucky number. So let's hope that's got good energy about it. But yes, the electronic, it'll all be, I'm going to go to, whilst I'm in Canberra, I shall go and get everything put onto USBs, and both the Covenant and the notice to the High Court will be given or served to every level of government, all the senators. It'll be given to the courts, it'll be given to the police, it'll be given to the Archbishop of Canterbury, sent over to England, America, surrounding nations, etc., etc. And I shall be looking to Darren and Darryl to provide me with anyone else they think that should go to. So I'll be asking their advice all along the way.
Nice.
Yeah. Why not?
I'm sure we have a list.
I'm sure. Yeah,
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, we've served.
Would all Australians have rights instead of privileges when the Commonwealth is restored? I do believe that's the fundamental interpretation.
Absolutely.
Quick and done. Next, Darren. So if you have changed...
Did you change your maiden name?
Maiden name by BDM prior to a court case being raised against you and uses your maiden name, is the court case void?
No.
No.
The body, the presentation of the body cures the defect.
That's not HZX versus QPS. That's not the point. If you change your name, you'd have to notify births, deaths, and marriages. So the births, deaths, and marriages notify the court, so it's irrelevant.
They're asking, does it void the court case? No, it doesn't, because you've gone there and answered to that name.
No.
So it's a procedural construct. So if you answer to the name,
it's an alias. If you show up, okay, and you're answering to that case, doesn't matter if you call yourself Fred Nurk, that is now your alias, okay, and you shall be known as that person.
Heidi disagrees. For what reason?
It's called a precedent called HZX versus QPS QSC 168 that I made.
Oh, that one.
That one. So what would happen there is if you changed your name, you would have to notify BDM, birth, deaths, and marriages, and you would have to notify the court, or you'd be committing fraud, even though they don't ask for any ID.
I still believe. So you're telling me, I committed a crime today, received my charge and some summons, or I'm going on an indictable offence. Tomorrow I change my name, and then I present to the court under the new name. Still, they're going to take you to be the old name because the body cures the defect.
Well, they'd have
But
to
it
ask.
isn't also the case that if you are charged and given a charge sheet and a simple spelling mistake is made, that kind of fucks a lot of their system because they didn't even get their paperwork right.
100%. Yeah. I don't know. That's a double-edged sword. It can go many ways, and my precedent's the only one that's established the truth in that. But I hear what Darren's saying that in HZX,
if you admit to it,
if you are the body standing there, they can't say you didn't attend. So Darren's essentially right in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that instance, would you attend to state that I believe this has been made against my persons, but my person is not this? I'm here only to state that you've got the wrong person.
They'll correct the defect. The legislation allows for defects to be corrected.
Well, that's the problem, is because the court never asks for your ID. It's the only place you don't have to show it.
Oh, unless you're voting.
No, the court.
Yeah, you don't have to show ID to vote either.
Yeah, true. Sorry.
Next question. Can the nurses be sued as well as were the ones who did the injections asking for a family member?
Can they be sued? Yes, they can. Would they be found guilty? Probably not, because of duty of care. Did they have the intent to damage you? I would say not.
What about if they knew that the person? This is the thing. Are nurses? Do you consider that a contract? No. The nurse-patient contract in law? No. Or yes, Darryl?
No.
But the chemist could get.
No.
They didn't have to be a nurse.
Because they're acting under instruction from the doctor.
Yeah.
But
and once again, they act in good faith. So you gotta. This is the thing. What you're claiming is, okay, so I got the nurse gave me the vaccine. I'm injured now. She's perpetuated a tort upon me. The thing is, there has to be a guilt. You have to prove that person wanted to damage you. And the nurse does not want to damage you. I'm telling you, nurses
in that instance,
nurses don't listen to this. Nurses don't join the nursery to damage people.
I'm inclined to agree, because there is a phlebotomist that I am aware of who has openly stated to me that she walked away from the job as a result of this shit. Because she was seeing the result of the jab, attempted to report it on multiple occasions, and was basically told, well, we're not seeing it.
Yeah, many nurses saw this.
So that particular person said, well, I am, fuck you, and the horse you rode in on, and walked away. But in this instance, again, unless you sat there with a phone in your pocket, quite tactfully recording over the top of your pocket, and happened to capture them administering the alleged injection after you'd stated, I don't want to be here. I'm here under duress. If you've got them going, well, we're all fucked. Who gives a shit? Take it anyway. If you've got a statement such to that you can prove, then you have a case. Otherwise, it's hearsay fundamentally. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There is no guilty mind. The nurse did not intend to provide damage to you.
That's contrary to what I just said about the doctor.
Like I said, if it's a case of, hey, I don't want to be here and I really don't want to do this, and the nurse has heard that, as a duty of care, they should be saying, no, this person is doing this under duress. I object. As a legal
100%.
format.
Which is never going to happen.
In fact, they cannot give you, they cannot, if you say, I'm here under duress, if they proceed, okay, then it's assault.
Exactly. So then you've got your case. So it comes down to the circumstances for how this has happened.
I don't know. I'm providing information only.
Say again, sorry?
Information only for all of us.
That's it. Just
From the LSC,
our understanding of things. Not giving
LSC
legal advice. Just this is how we perceive things should be based on the evidence provided by the government themselves.
Well, there's three of us that are in exhibits in my LSC case, so I'm going to be careful.
And I'd just like to also mention I did not authorize any use of this podcast for any of those kinds of things. And nor have I ever been contacted by any of these people who seek to use this podcast as alleged evidence. So Oliver asks, so is the High Court our friend or not? Why is everything going to hell in Australia if they sometimes do the right thing? Why not always do the right thing? I don't understand.
The High Court has not done the right thing, but Darryl.
I believe what Oliver's trying to decipher is why are there all these issues? It's not the judiciary; it's the Parliament. The judiciary can only invalidate laws or make new precedents or use common sense if matters are taken to them. So
and you've also got to think some of the matters that have been brought before them, cases have been, in my opinion, designed to fail. Now, Darren, you know firsthand as well, that bloody, I shouldn't drag you into that, but the Kazam versus Hazard, though, before they lodged that matter, stating it was a constitutional matter, we're on the phone to them explaining that the legislative authority is the act. So you cannot say it's a constitutional matter if you are challenging the directions of the CHO, because the restraint of the legislative authority is of the Constitution. The legislative authority is the act. So it's not on the actions of executive officers. It's not a constitutional matter if you do that. So that case was designed to fail. Absolutely designed to fail. It should have been against the state of New South Wales, and they should have been challenging the validity of the Public Health Act of New South Wales. But instead they went in and challenged the bloody directions of the CHO in the Supreme Court. It's the same with Palmer. That was designed to fail as well, once again. The QC, Mr. Dunning, did exactly the same thing. Cottrell versus Romanis did exactly the same thing. And that was Arby's bloody, one of Arby's workers, Kerry Cottrell. And then we intervened with David Weisinger and Tony Pecora when they were in that matter. So, I've got all the blooming emails from that, which obviously I can't release because they're private. But this is the thing. That matter was... Kathleen Foley was the barrister on that case, working. She was part of Arvy's dream team with Madeline Smith from Smith and Tapper. Now, during that case, they asked for, I think it was a week or 2 weeks adjournment so they could read over the Palmer case. And they did exactly the same thing. So Kathleen Foley was involved in the Brown versus Tasmania, a precedent High Court case on the same subject matter. It was on the implied freedom of political communication. Kathleen Foley knew damn well that matter needed to be in the High Court and the defendant needed to be the state of Victoria. Instead, what did she choose to do? They chose to lodge it in the Supreme Court and challenge the CHO's directions.
Yep.
Designed to fail. And all of these matters had the press, the MSN, mainstream media out the front of these cases. When do you see that? Well, these cases, lost, and it's been found in these matters that the directions were not unconstitutional. Bullshit. Nothing could have been further from the truth. Gurner versus the state of Victoria. Same deal. Utter bullshit. Anyhow. So the judges, I'm getting it, that the judges or the justices can only make their determinations based on the arguments that are put before them. They can't interject. They're not a part of the argument.
Totally.
Once again.
Anyhow.
Anyhow.
There to interrupt, yeah. Right,
Sorry.
guys. I'm going to hit the frog and toe. I think this is Friday. This is the longest I've stayed up, I think. I stayed up. It's like a...
It's just the last podcast.
I said, yeah, the last time I was on the podcast. That's right. I'm normally in bed by like 8:30, 9 o'clock. But anyway, it's now that song, that Grease. I stayed up until 10 o'clock. It's now 11:19.
Well, we appreciate your commitment. And thank you for your time.
I think the lasting comment that I'd like to say is that to reiterate what Darryl said, we're so close. We've got this. We see people trying different things, but it's the stuff that's happening of the likes of us and other people, when we're not alone, trying stuff behind the scenes. We're not spending 10 hours a day on Facebook saying, do this, do this, do this, do that. Right?
10 hours a day finally getting the research.
Yeah.
If you're actually doing something that's going to make a difference, you don't have time to do 10 podcasts and do this and organise certain things. And
the old I'm sharing information on Facebook gang who think they're making a difference. Yeah.
And whilst I'm supporting Jody in his trip for a partial part of the time, again, I don't have time to do all of these, become an influencer, if you want to call it that, of words. We appreciate it because it's definitely going to a good cause for Jaquie's cause and the sisters and that.
Dr. Valerie.
Yeah.
I'm stoked with what Jodie's done. It's just
100%.
blew me out.
Ending up in a good position for a good cause, but what the big work is what particularly these guys are doing behind the scenes. I'm predominantly about myself. I'm just still battling my own stuff, but it's what happens, the hours that go into doing this and to get behind that work that these guys are doing, because as Darryl said, I think when Know Your Rights came out, they were the biggest conspiracy theorists ever. Now they're popular. Yeah, more popular than you were back then, I think, So there's definitely been a change, and I, for one, was a straighty 180, didn't know a section of the law, and, I believe in what we're doing. We're going to keep going, and we've got to also keep that positive, fun element to it, to keep the vibes, like your shirt, Mark. So you're going to wear a toga anyway.
I should wear a toga. I don't want to take it away from Darryl.
Yeah.
That's his thing, man. I don't want to be like a copycat or anything.
I agree, and mate, no one can wear a toga like Darryl can.
I haven't seen it, Darryl.
I've got to stick with loud shirts, just in case Pauline Hanson turns up again, and I have to have another loud T-shirt competition. I think we're reaching that point where I can't even formulate my words anymore.
Yeah, it's nearly midnight.
Yep,
right.
It is. One last question, but okay, goodbye, Heidi.
Bye,
Thank you
darling.
very much
Heidi.
for coming together. And I would just like to say for everybody, hey, this whole podcast was Heidi's idea. So
there you go.
Heidi.
Well, thank you, Heidi.
Good on you, Heidi.
All right. See you night.
Love your work.
Night.
Yeah, you're a legend. I don't know how you do it.
We're all legends. Everyone, the people that wake up in the morning are legends. I'm that much of a legend.
Like
I don't know how to get off it. So I'm just going to walk away because I don't even know how to use it.
So I'll help you out then. See you later.
Bye.
All right, one last final question, and then I'll release you guys back to the wild. Martin, I'd just like to say, please stop typing in capital letters. It's generally considered impolite, and screaming at people is a fundamental concept. I don't know if you're trying to be aggressive, but it's generally not appreciated because that text format is set that way. But let's answer his question. Are the gatekeepers preventing justice by selecting removing cases from accessing the High Court?
No,
Are they preventing justice, or are they maybe perverting the course of justice?
no.
Well,
I think
look, the
wherever-
registrars, we sued a registrar because the registrars, other than the only role that they've got is to, to advise or to knock back cases based on, administrative bloody issues, such as if it's not in a freaking, the correct font, Times New Roman, and if it's not, size 12, and if your margins aren't correct, etc. But, yeah, the gatekeepers being the registrar certainly were blocking the cases, so did a matter and sued the registrar, and from that point forward, the justices were basically having a look over the cases. But this is the thing: if they're ill-conceived or not up to scratch, they don't let them in. They've got their screening process, as I said. If they're ill-conceived, vexatious, or frivolous, they won't take them on. But so that gives us all the more hope with first time in Australian history that lay people have gotten into the High Court, Rod Cullerton and Dr. Beverley. So please, everyone, get behind them. Does Rod need help with contributions as well, donations? I think he might. I don't know. And yeah, Dr. Beverley does.
I think he's already got something going on, but yeah, of course.
Yeah. So that's what I thought. Darren. So I'm just concentrating on Dr. Beverley because she definitely does. We've only raised half of the costs already against her. So please, these matters are absolutely crucial. Australians, get behind people standing up for you. They're standing up for the whole country.
I'm going to be seeking some contributions myself soon with the outcome of the Yarra Rangers council case from 2 years ago. We got lumbered with a $70,000 costs order. So,
but hold on a minute.
Look
You're
out.
going to clarify that a bit?
Yeah,
You
I'm
had a
not
whole lot of
familiar
people
with that.
behind you and backing you, and then all of a sudden,
Well, they seem to have got back on board.
oh, have they? Oh, just as well before I throw any names around.
Yeah.
It's that time of night when I'm getting cranky.
Is this
Good. All right.
let's do a whole new podcast that you've just opened a can of worms on. We'll deal with this another day.
Yes.
Okay, we
Not
can
for
do
me
that.
to speak about.
Question: is this something you can quickly describe and get and go before my bladder explodes, or
We'll do another podcast on it.
we'll do another podcast on it? All right. To be continued. Marty McFly is standing there wondering whether the doc is coming back. That's the kind of scenario we're at right now. Any final words, ladies and gentlemen?
No,
Ladies.
just get out there and get into it and get behind what we're doing.
Please, yeah. Get behind the covenant, sign the covenant, please, the Solemn League and Covenant. Sign the notice to the High Court so they'll never be able to use the principal purpose of the High Court. We can't be distracted, blah, blah, blah. Because if all Australians are on board with this and signing the notice from all around the country, they have to hear it. Please get on board with that. Support Dr. Beverley. Thank you, Batty, for tonight's show, and thank you, Darren and Darryl, always for providing me with advice.
No worries. I'd just like to say that that this document is empowered by you, the people, and without you, there is no power.
That's right. That's it.
See you in 9.5 hours, Darryl.
Yep, Jack.
Is that a
I'll
threat
probably
or
see
promise?
you in 17.
Oh shit!
Oh, shit, yeah. Anyhow.
Gotta love it. Well, there's a lot more documents that you did send me, Jaquie, and I think we might have to do another podcast on some of the things that you've sent me here.
I just sent you the for the cases, the plaintiffs, just a brief outline. Darryl, I've sent them through to Batty.
Yep.
Plaintiffs for the case against the Commonwealth trying to invalidate sections of the Biosecurity Act 478, 479. They're just brief outlines. I sent them to you as well, Darryl. Remember, I typed up those just an A4 on each of them.
But so it's just another bringing that audience in for future podcasts.
Come and do something.
So much good shit. So much good shit. And it is hard to decide where we go, what we do every week with so much stuff going on. And
we've got to fight.
And I want to thank Jaquie, Darren, Darryl, Heidi for coming on and taking time out of your Friday night. Once upon a time, I'm sure we were all party animals and out there having a great time on a Friday night doing something other than podcasts and just having a yarn about what would seemingly be boring legal, political matters.
No.
Things that most people, why would you talk about fucking politics? There's a sport to be played. Some crap like that. Thank you very much for joining us on the North Queensland Freedom Network, and I look forward to having you guys back on again in one way, shape, or another, combined, separate, anyway. It'll be great, and it has been good, and I believe the audience has certainly enjoyed everything. It's amazing. The longer you run a podcast, the more people you have coming in live. It's a strange fucking scenario. But look, thank you all very much. By all means, if you need to get a hold of the Covenant, ladies and gentlemen, you can get onto Constitution Watch. You can jump onto the North Queensland Freedom Network Telegram page, or you can email me at nqfreedomnetwork@protonmail.com, and I'll happily send one to you. Of course, we've got all our little product things, all the businessy crap that we have to do to try and fucking stay somewhat funded. 7-day free trial of the Gaia thing. Hey, look, I use it. I only promote it because I fucking use it. Stake as I've gone fucking blank. I'm supposed to be really good at this, but this is the Mike Palmer spiel. You want to get involved in shares and stuff, use this app. It's cool. Use my app, Mark B228. I've been buying up stocks. It's been cool. It's funny and very entertaining. Really easy app to use. Get onto that. And a whole bunch of other shit that's in the description. Yeah, the Gaia network. This one's about to run out, actually. 2 months free annual membership. And there's the whole Bitcoin thing. If you want to give it a go, why not? If you don't, who gives a shit? I don't care. Give it a go. Why not? If not, wow. What do you got to lose? At the end of the day, it's if you care and I care, we care together, and everybody wins. It's pretty much that simple, and it's probably the shittest sales pitch you'll ever hear, but I thought it would be entertaining nonetheless. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this evening's disastrous presentation at the final point, at least. Everything else has been wonderful up until then. Thank you very much. See you next time.